Well, I guess Mello not going to do the intro. Welcome to the Cloud Ninja Podcast. This is your host, Free Game, joined by my co-host, Dummy Thick Mello. And we're joined by today with Black Uchiha. Everybody show Jet Black Uchiha some love and also subscribe to his channel as well. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the Cloud Ninja Podcast. Shoot us a like and share to keep your people aware of what's going on with Boruto.
Yep. What's up?
Ersky was good.
How was that? How was that as an intro? That was a cool intro. Nice.
Nope. That was a good
intro. It was a fun intro.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start doing it instead of Bar. He be mad monotone.
I got no opposition.
Welcome to the Cloud Ninja Podcast. This is Bar B, joined by my lovely co-host, Free Game Nino the Third. Mello, what's your name now? Again, Mello, what's your name? You always gotta ask you what you're going by. Like, what kind of intro is that?
It's like, bro, we've been working together for 3 years, bro. Just call me Mello.
Like, what the fuck? Oh, we passed 60 seconds. We got it. Okay, cool. But yeah, so today we're going to be discussing two Blue Vortex Chapter 17 review. Basically, normally we start off with ratings. So, Mello, you want to go ahead and, or no, actually, Black, you want to give us your rating on this chapter? How you felt about it?
It threw me off. I say a 9 if I have to give it a rating. I say a 8.5 out of 10.
What threw you off about it, if you don't mind me asking?
Not threw me off in a bad way. Like, I wasn't expecting it.
Oh, gotcha.
And plus, like, I was reading it throughout the day, so like I ain't get done reading it till like 30 minutes ago, not myself. So I'm like, I'm still thinking about it myself. But I want to say a 10, but I ain't trying to say it too fast. But I'll say 8.59.
That's reasonable. That's reasonable. What about you, Mello?
My bad.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Dummy Thick Mello.
Hey.
No, I was muting. I'm trying to avoid this whole echo thing. I just don't. This is StreamYard's platform sucks. But okay. My thoughts on the chapter. I think it was a great chapter. I give it a 10 out of 10, and I really enjoyed the depth of storytelling and the writing. If it were just like a battle between the characters, it would have been fine. We would have come on here and power scaled and argued who's Kage level and who's Otsutsuki and blah, 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 right? The same old usual. But this was a turn that I myself have been speaking about for months now. And the fact that we seem to kind of be on the same page, I kind of vibe with. So development for Sarada, development for Konohamaru, Mitsari, Ryu, Shikamaru, all of that. It was fantastic. So even Araya and Yodo. And I'm liking the pacing in this one in particular. It's a great setup chapter, but I think this is probably not my favorite chapter. However, I do think it's probably the best written chapter in terms of like depth of storytelling that I've seen in a while. Just the concepts that Shikamaru is invoking, I think were necessary. And I was hoping that they wouldn't just skip over the kind of assessment of the Shinju to where, hey, are they evil or do they have malicious intent? Well, I don't think so. These are all things I've been talking about for months. And I like how Boruto started questioning Kashin Koji. That is what I've been talking about for months. I don't like the idea that he just so quickly went along with Koji's plans without asking any pertinent, look it up, probing questions. Okay. So, so him questioning and kind of getting like sassy with Koji was necessary for me. And yeah, so I like it. I think Kishimoto. I think Ikimoto is really kind of flexing with this chapter in terms of like what he can do. I did see some memes on X just briefly before the podcast. People were kind of like complaining what else is new about he can only write female characters as love interests. Well, obviously, no, but it's a choice, and I don't think it's a bad one. I think it's actually a rather intelligent one to maybe bring in a certain different demographic to kind of do a little scatter shot, if you will, and then, cover all your bases. So I think it's very intelligent and very smart. And I'm liking everything. I like the designs. I like the atmosphere. I like the, Ryu, where he says like, for reals with an S. Like, you know, he's doing all of these things, you know, all this stuff. So it's kind of speaking to maybe Shinki and his disposition, but then also just maybe Ryu is his own kind of individual self as he develops and grows, and the naivete of the Shinju and the depth of writing when it comes to Shikamaru kind of taking on like a Tobi Rama or a Danzo position. And it's really interesting to me because if Ikimoto's going in the direction that I think he's going, so far we're aligned here. I think he's going to be blurring the lines between who you believe are bad and who you believe are good, right? Because right now, Shikamaru himself has this plan to befriend the Shinju, but then betray them after the fact if need be. And when you take a look at the Shinju, he himself says that they don't have malicious intent. They're like newborn wild creatures, wild beast cubs. So on one hand, the antagonizing group don't have malicious intent. They're acting on base instinct, but the so-called heroes do have malicious intent. And they're doing some really shady, grimy stuff to these kind of innocent creatures, almost like these naive, like children. Like he's literally comparing them to like babies, but yet and still we're going to like betray them because they represent some threat. I think this is a great chapter, one of the best in TBV, and yeah, I think I give it a 10 out of 10, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I remember we had a conversation a few podcasts ago. I think you alluded to this when we was talking about evil. Like, are they evil or are they not evil? And I said it's like perspective. It depends on, you know, what viewpoint you're looking at it from. If you're looking at it from the least viewpoint, then they're their enemies. But if you're looking at from they're evil. But if you look at it from the Shinju's point of view, they're evil because they want to take them out. That's why I have brought that up. But personally, me, I give this a chapter a 9 out of 10 for sure. I do love dialogue chapters. I do love getting more information. Like battle heavy is cool, but if you don't know what's going on and there's no story behind why the fights are occurring, then it defeats the purpose. And it was a lot of like great moments in this chapter. I'm just going to start off with my boy Konohamaru has a cold haircut, bro. I'm really digging. Yo, Konohamaru got a cold haircut. He had his headband off, and I was like, yo.
Bro pulled up. He said he has to start moving different for this mission.
Different, yeah. He visited the barber, and he got a cold cut. Like, yeah,
wait a minute.
Sorry.
Konohamaru has always been that guy. Like, you guys are just not getting on the bandwagon. Like, it's so insane.
I'm not on the bandwagon. I'm admiring my man's cut. I'm like, yo, he got a nice little cut. Is it?
He's been had that cut. It's the same cut. It's the same brother.
But he always had the headband on though. He took off the headband in one of the chapters, and it's just you just see my boys line up like it's fresh. He doing his thing.
He really threw Matsuri off her game, man.
Right, you see what I'm saying?
It's just crazy.
You know, girls say they don't like their man to come outside when he just get a haircut. Because he a different type of dude. Konohamaru got his haircut because he knew he was about to go, raise up Matsuri, and But basically, let me get back to what I was.
Oh my goodness. No, I love it.
But yeah, and I like how they mentioned that Matsuri and Ryu, they stated that Jura has a respect for ninjas or the village or something like that. Like,
he was like, they're nice people.
Yeah, they're nice people. So, like, yeah, go ahead.
No, that's what he said. I was like, they're nice peeps.
Yeah, so he doesn't. I don't know if he sees them as enemies. So I'm really interested on how they're progressing with the story. And we got more on the Soul Bowl. I thought they was gonna bypass that and forget it, like they do a lot of things, or a series does a lot of things, like as far as the Soul Bowl goes. And we found out that the utility of the Soul Bowl is to bring back somebody that died, and they can't die pretty much. So you can kill them as much as you want, but as long as they retrieve that Soul Bowl, they can always come back, and that adds another aspect to the Shinju as well. So I like the chapter. I didn't see any criticism with it. I've been seeing a lot of people giving the same opinion on it, saying that it's a good chapter. Probably not the best chapter. Yeah, I would agree with you, Mello, but it's definitely up there as far as chapters go.
No, yeah, it's a great chapter.
Yeah, facts for sure.
I really like how they turned it around. Well, for me, like they turned it around with the aspect of I'm really questioning going forward for the story. Like Miller was kind of saying earlier, is it going to be more of a black and white thing like the Shinju versus the ninja, or is just going to be like certain people's ideals, morals, and beliefs versus other people's more deals, like ideals and stuff like that? So just multiple viewpoints clashing. So I don't really even think it could even be just two definite sides. It can be like multiple sides. I'm thinking about like how Ryu and like Matsuri or just other Shinju in general, like Hidari can just branch off from what Jura wants to do. Or even a curveball, like Jura just turns out not to be a villain throughout the story. And he just plays like a mediator that everybody knows not to mess with, kind of. I don't know. But it's just making me think about all these like so many different ways, like no pun intended, like all the prescience, like so many different possibilities the story could go, bro.
Right.
It's
No,
crazy.
yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. So what do y'all I was looking at one of the panels, and one of the sand ninja, he has this like mask over his eyes, and it kind of reminds me of what's his name? The bug dude. I can't remember his name. He doesn't have a dojutsu in his eye. But do you guys think that he has some type of dojutsu? That's why he covers his eyes?
Who?
Araya? No.
Araya?
Yeah.
Araya's character from the
He's
anime
shy.
at the very
Wait, he was in the anime? I don't remember him in the anime.
yeah, he showed up in the first Boruto tuning exams.
Okay.
Araya's character is more, he doesn't like to be in the spotlight. I'm not entirely sure if that's linked to his like visual aesthetic, but he's kind of shy. So he fights with puppets and he fights from a distance usually. And his first battle was against Sarada. Her Sharingan wasn't working because she was fighting a puppet. But that's kind of his like characterization. He's shy, he's timid, he's pretty talented, but he doesn't like to be in the spotlight. He's kind of like Metal Lee. They actually drew a comparison in the anime about them.
I remember him now. I remember who you're talking about now.
Yeah, so like there's no dojutsu or anything like that. Yeah.
Nah, but he got a cold fit. I ain't gonna lie. I think Araya got the best fit. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give it to my man's Konohamaru. I don't never really be on Konohamaru like
You
that.
think Konohamaru fit better? I mean, I can respect that opinion though. I can respect Konohamaru got that shit on him. I'm not gonna lie, but like
Man, I don't want to hear nothing about Konohamaru, bro. I've been championing this man for a minute, and everybody been talking crap about me, talking crap about him. He's trash, especially Barhead ass. He's trash. He's dog. He's not Kage He's blah blah. Konohamaru's in the garbage can. All the memes is nah. Now everybody wanted. Oh, he's getting some booty. Oh shit! Now Konohamaru, he got a brand new haircut.
I was about to say that's really why everybody want to start talking about it,
because they want to live vicariously through him. That's why, because they all like simping over Mitsuri, which I absolutely understand. Okay, but you know, it's crazy work. People switching up, people faker than a motherfucker. Okay,
nah, I get it though, and even with Matsuri. Now, on a serious note, with Matsuri, I'm actually considering her character, like her Matsuri, not Moegi, being more important to the story than Moegi himself. Just the way like they're, I guess, introducing it or how they can go, because it's already starting off interesting. Like she kind of came off introduced him as like a Delta 2.0, like okay, that's just the Shinju version of Delta with the attitude. She's strong and stuff like that. But like the more we get dialogue from her, the more I'm thinking about her character, like her interests and like what motivates her, and truly like how her personality can be. And plus, Ryu, hands down, is my favorite Shinju, just because of like, yeah, I like everything about Ryu.
You know, Ryu's pretty cool. I think for me, I really like Jura, but I think it's like maybe 1A, 1B between him and Mamushi. So I like them both. They're pretty cool.
Mamushi is savage though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think the reason why he hasn't made any moves because I already know they saving the best for last. that dude's gonna be on demons.
Yes.
He might be the one with the malicious intent. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, he seems a little bit different, a little older.
He got Ada shaking in her boots. She don't want to use one of her abilities because she's scared he gonna pop up again.
Right.
Yeah. There's some weird odd like kind of like residual background noise on your end, Freegan.
Hold on, let me see if I can fix
it. It's like this kind of droning hum. It's a little weird. But yeah, the ratings aside though.
Headphones.
It's like a little buzz.
Sound like an AC.
Is that better?
No, not at all. I'm just being honest, bro. Yeah, maybe just like mute it when you're not like cooking. Okay. So like kind of beyond that though, what do you guys think about Amado in the Kawaki little cliffhanger there? Because I kind of say I think Kawaki should probably kill Amado at this point. I kind of brought this up. Like, there's really no utility in keeping him alive. I mean, the only one I can really think of is just once he gets his limiters removed, just maybe he needs him for maintenance. But at the same time, like it seems like Koji got fixed, and Orochimaru maybe. But it seems like there are people who can do the maintenance for Kawaki maybe. Right. So I'm not entirely sure why Amado even needs to live beyond this point, because if he's limiting Kawaki's power from Kawaki's perspective, it could be he could be thinking like, hey, like you're making me weaker. I could have died. And if I died, my daddy Naruto, he's stuck in that dimension. And then also like, I can't create a world where it's like safe for him. So like you limiting me effectively means you're damaging Naruto. And we already know how he feels about people who want to have that kind of approach. I think he's just awesome.
That's true. But I would say that Amado has the most elite talk no jutsu. I think he has the most chakra when it comes to that. He's going to talk his way out of Kawaki killing him. He's going to like tell him something that's obviously probably not true, or has like a little bit of truth mixed in with a lie, I should say. Like he probably would tell him like he's the only reason, he's the only way he can keep him alive, or if you kill me, then I can't take off your limiters, or something like that. Like,
yeah, I don't know. It's just
the thing
seems done. Like he came in and took that cigarette right out of that boy's mouth.
Right.
Like that was
his whole mood. Like killed the whole vibe.
Yeah, you can't be having a man taking stuff out your mouth. That's crazy. Like. That goes both ways. Like it just is, if there's a code that needs to be maintained, and he just said, "Nah, bro." So I think he needs to pack up, dude. It's time.
I think if they're gonna be keeping him out around, which they most likely will, though, he has an ulterior motive beyond just like wanting the Kebi to come back to life. So they're gonna reveal it in a way that I don't know for sure, because Boruto describes it when he's talking to Kawaki back. Excuse me. When he's talking to Kawaki back on the Hokage Faces, he's like, Amado's using, or he was limiting your offensive abilities for his own selfish means. And it was already disclosed in part one that Amado wanted to, when he did the whole breakdown cry thing, he just trying to revive his daughter. So based off of whatever maybe Kashin Koji is telling Boruto, and I also want to get into that later, Mello, like you said, that little indifference between the two of them. But based off of what Kashin Koji has, which you would assume he'd be telling Boruto, according to the conversation that Boruto is having with Kawaki, so like he's privy to the things that Amado is doing. So it would be simple to say like, oh, he's limiting your powers just to keep you in check for his daughter. But he describes it as like his own selfish motives, and he says it in a way that has animosity. So I don't really know. I'm not too sure about that guy, Amado. I don't know. And he seems like prepared. Like he looks nervous when Kawaki got him pinned up against the wall, but he's like, all right, it's time to put the plan into motion, and let's hope it works.
He already knew. I as smart as Amado is, I'm pretty sure he knew once Kawaki got the information that he had limiters on him, that he was going to come after him.
Right.
And I like to look at Amado as a character that plays 3D chess. Like he's always a step ahead of you. Kawaki, unfortunately, he's not that smart. He reacts off of emotion. Like, he was a battered child, if you want to go back into his childhood. So like he doesn't think. he reacts purely off of emotion. Where you have Amado, he's going to think about it. And I don't know how many days has passed, but I think it was like 2 chapters ago where Boruto told him about the limiters. Yeah, so I don't know like what time.
Because it takes like 3 days to get to the Sand Village. So if they ran,
okay.
like
It could have been about 3 days. Yeah. So like I'm pretty sure Amado thought of something because he had to know that Kawaki was going to come after him and try to get those limiters removed.
Right.
Wait. Aren't they light speed? Why can't they just get there in less than 3 days?
I'm saying though, but
I don't think that light speed shit exists, bro. I think people just be saying that shit.
I mean, Naruto and Sasuke, when they ran, they didn't even run like they ran across the country to go fight at the end of the Ninja War. I'm pretty sure it took like.
I'm sorry.
No, I was about to say I'm pretty sure it took them like a minute, not like too long. Probably like at least like 30 minutes, maybe an hour to get there. So I don't know. It just depends on how they decide how to run. I don't know.
Yeah, like I love how like the counter to me saying that is always like, oh well, like there's a difference between travel and combat. I'm like, okay, well, fucking kick each other all the way to the Sand Village. Who fucking like yeah, like if they can only enter light speed when they fight, then they need to fight their ass to the fucking Sand Village. The fight wouldn't last long, wouldn't it? Like it would be light speed. So like it's just it don't make sense. It's confusing.
That's why, and that's what I'm thinking. Like Kawaki took so long to press him, so like Free Game said he has to have a plan. But I mean, he hasn't said anything until they started this mission at the Sand Village. So maybe just Ikimoto just don't care. He was like, "Hey, this is just happening now."
Yeah, I put forth this idea. Shikamaru is the best Hokage in the history. In fact, I think he's the best Kage. Period. Bro, every Kage that has ever lived.
You know what they're doing with Shikamaru is like they're showing, I think, like because back when Naruto was Hokage, Shikamaru would suggest things, and it would just be a topic of discussion, like, oh, we should confine Kawaki and keep him blocked. No, Naruto was like, nah, he's gonna come live for me, or we should do this for so and so, and Naruto's like, no. But now we're seeing in actual like real time, what if Shikamaru is allowed to make a decision, and we see like he's giving them the minute, like, yo, go over here and backdoor these Shinju. They may not be evil, but we don't care. Naruto wouldn't do this, but I don't care. So let's go ahead and knock it out. And I think it's interesting. I think it's cool too that we get to approach it in a different light and see how a what if scenario would play out if Shikamaru was the one making the calls in these type of situations where the Earth is at threat instead of Naruto's. Like, he most likely wouldn't do something like this. I couldn't say what Naruto would do in this type of position, but he definitely, even if he wants to approach it with like, force, he wouldn't do something like deception in this type of degree. So
yeah, it's like super interesting, his character, like how Ikimoto has kind of made a turn for him, because at the start of like part 1 of Boruto, he was kind of irrelevant. He was always there and a mover and a shaker, as the boomers say, but as towards the end, like the prophecy arc and like the code stuff, when Naruto
people started saying, oh, Shikamaru's gonna die, he started becoming more and more.
Man, I thought he was too. I subscribe to that. I'll admit it.
Yeah, like when Naruto starts breaking down in the middle of the code fight and he's not like doing what he needs to do as a Kage, like he's like, yo, you have a job to do, bro. Like you can't be in this position. Like there's a certain burden that's on you. You don't have the luxury of this right now, man. Like the fate of the entire universe, because this guy wants to world hop, is on your shoulders. You can't just buckle. What are you doing? And then like he was trying to warn him, like you said, about against like Kawaki, and like this bias that you seem to have to where I don't know if bias is the right word, but this kind of you're overlaying your own emotional baggage onto this kid that you don't even have information about. It's insane. And I always say, like, I'm not mad at what Naruto did. I just don't like how he did it, right? So it's like it's really interesting to see a competent, strategic, intelligent individual actually like make a move that's not just based off of emotion, but just this to me. I'm thinking who outside of like Toby Rama or like maybe Danzo or something, like because he and Danzo kind of occupy the same space as like interim Kage. They haven't like fully been ingratiated into the role.
Mhm.
I think those three are probably like the best ones. I think I would want to have at the helm. Danzo, I don't know that dude. I don't know the great for the best for humanity. I
Danzo
don't
a
know.
snake. I ain't gonna lie, he a snake, and
I
Hiruzen.
mean,
That
Danzo,
might be what you need though.
yeah, Danzo did whatever he had to do to achieve
But
his
did he
goal.
though? Like when it comes to the whole Shisui thing, did he really?
Nah.
Was it necessary,
Well, didn't they
or
have?
was he just like trying to prove a point at that point?
Nah, he just wanted that eye, bro. You right.
No, I think it was necessary, just from his perspective. Like,
I mean, because if he wanted the full advantage of that, why not try to utilize, the means in terms of working with Shisui? Because Shisui already was against, in a way, or how the story described it, in a way, like the coup d'etat for the Uchiha. So, like, why put a plan into motion where it ensures you get one eye at least? Basically, splitting. Just I don't know, like cutting your losses, I guess. But Danzo could have went about it a different way. I mean, he still could have did things that Hiruzen probably, because I still think Hiruzen was probably one of the dumbest Hokages out there. But he could have, went about things, especially the Shisui. Like, I think Shisui died a senseless death. Out of everybody in Naruto, I still try to figure out, why did he have to die though? Like, that's just.
I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out he didn't die, and they just like kind of brought him back.
Jumped in the river.
That would be crazy. I'll be I mean,
he was poisoned though. He was poisoned, so he most likely died.
Bro.
There's a path if Ikimoto wants to where he can bring him back.
Yeah,
and
of course.
It's the same thing with Kaguya. Like, there's this moment where Naruto hits her with all the elemental Rasen Shuriken, and she kind of like becomes this rabbit Ten Tails, right? We all remember that.
Yeah.
And then there's this moment where she kind of reconstitutes herself, and then out of the blob of Ten Tails, I don't know, chakra flesh, comes her like humanoid form. It could be the case that wasn't really the real Kaguya. She made some shift or switch, and she like escaped, and the one they sealed away was some kind of like clone or some fission version of herself. I think like there are paths that you can take if you want to bring these characters back, in particular the two what we just mentioned. If you want to, it's there for you. But
yeah,
I agree. His death, but just canon wise, his death is like very senseless.
Yeah, so wait, back Jiraiya, so why not?
I mean, and then wait, was Shisui poisoned by Danzo when he jumped in the river, or did he just decide to jump?
I don't recall him being poisoned personally, but
so that's
he was poisoned by one of Danzo's dudes, the ones that control the bugs or whatever.
So my whole thing with Shisui too, and I have a problem. I'm not giving him a pass, like just because he died. Like, why decide to just go and kill yourself? Like, what does that do for your village? Just go seek a medic.
Go seek a medic.
Like he's like, no, I'm gonna stand over the waterfall.
Well, maybe he thought they was gonna kill him anyways. If you go seek a medic, you gonna have to tell him what happened. Yo, Danzo just tried to take my goddamn eye. Like,
I mean, at that point, I guess that's a wise decision because Hiruzen isn't that smart, so he probably would have went to Hiruzen and still ended up dead. So
exactly, yeah, they wanted him dead anyways.
But
it's interesting. Yeah.
I just that's the one thing I don't like with the story.
And then you ain't got no eyes, so like, what's the point, bro? You can't see no eyes. You can't see nothing.
He could have one-eyed it. He took his second eye out and then gave it to Itachi, and then decided to jump. I'm like, come on, bro. Like, what?
No, Shisui is very well, in some cases under, and in some cases overrated. Like the fact that he even got his eye taken to begin with is a problem.
And yeah, like he got jumped by Danzo, and then was it the two ninja who like couldn't even beat Obito?
Nah, I don't even recall. But yeah, no, I think Shikamaru being in the vein of like Tobirama and Danzo, I think it kind of works, and I kind of like it.
Yeah, he got poisoned. Shisui got poisoned. He did. It says in the novel, Shisui was attacked by Danzo and Suguru from the Aburame clan, who whose insects poison Shisui.
Okay.
Yeah, so he did get that. That's in a novel, though. I think the anime does it a little bit different.
I get it.
Yeah, that's the dudes who control the bugs. What's his name? The only one they really show.
He had his eyes covered, kind of like Orion has.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
But yeah, you were saying, Mello, with the
Sorry, I
Shikamaru.
forgot. Nah, I lost my.
Yeah, I do like how they explored the dynamic between Shikamaru and Naruto, because he was like, Naruto wouldn't do something like this. Like, if it was Naruto's call, he wouldn't have did this. He would probably try to like save him or some shit like that. And Konohamaru, you can call it cold blooded, but he sees them as an enemy. They need to be eradicated. So, and they need to get back a few of the ninja that got turned into Shinju. So,
You don't think he's gonna fold?
who's gonna fold? Konohamaru?
Well, I think somebody.
I mean, not Konohamaru. I'm sorry. Shikamaru is who I meant. I said Konohamaru. My bad.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm talking about like in the mission, currently in the task of like actually befriending the Shinju. You don't think like Konohamaru's gonna fold? Whether it be like he actually is like, nah, bro, I don't know if I can do this, or it just seems wrong. For as sad as it seems for me to say, as like I'll probably say one of the number one Sarada fans. I kind of got that vibe from her when she doubled back, because Ryu was like, "Oh yeah, Jura said you guys were nice people" or something like that. She was like, "What?" Like, like, does he really think like we're nice? And she knows like she's about to kill them. So I'm just thinking about it like that.
Konohamaru, probably not, because I just want to give Konohamaru the benefit of doubt that he's going to follow through with the mission that he's been tasked.
Right.
So I don't think so. I think they are going to go for the goal, but I don't think they're going to be able to succeed.
And then
one of them might die though. One of the Shinju might die.
I hope it's not Ryu.
Maybe Moegi. You don't know. Or Matsuri. Sorry, gotta address her properly. That's my boy Mello's boo. But this guy got a thing for Matsuri, bro. I don't understand it.
It's just content, man. That's all. It's a cartoon. I don't care. But yeah, just for the content.
I'm just flipping with you. I'm just messing with you, bro.
Let's get some. Let's wrap up the podcast. Invoke a little injection of energy in this podcast. It's a little low energy. So what don't you like about this chapter? Like, give me something to work with here. Like, what are we thinking? Like, you guys didn't give it a perfect 10. So, what's the criticisms? What's the thing holding it back?
I would say probably for me, the thing that's holding, if we're gonna just be honest, without me just like trying to find a reason, I would say just my fresh reaction, just not wanting to give it a 10. If I'm thinking about like what actually occurred, everything was laid out in a good format, really. So I can say, okay, with the Boruto and Kashin Koji thing, I think this is actually a good time to start getting into that, because we're starting to see a shift, and it's kind of looking like a 180, because prior chapters it was like Kashin Koji spoke and Boruto jumped and then listened and then asked, "Are you sure this is what you want me to do?" and then followed through. But now we kind of see like a shift in that, because he's asking him, and he's trying to get him to clarify. He's like, "Yo, I didn't say that. Give me a number. You're being around the bush." So we can kind of see the start of a little shift between that relationship between both of them. So I'm thinking that's real interesting. But if they could have done some more before to let us understand that Boruto isn't the whole, because it's not a sensei and student feel that I'm getting from them. Even if Kashin Koji helped them learn the Flying Raijin and possibly the Uzuhiko as well, but I think they should go deeper into the relationship between both of them, and how actually, maybe from Boruto's perspective, how he truly feels about Kashin Koji, not just how us as an audience feel, or understanding that Kashin Koji sees Boruto as the ultimate tool that can't die in the mission that they have in the grand scheme of things going on. So I'm thinking about it from that perspective, like more so from Boruto's viewpoint. How does he truly feel about going along with everything that Kashin Koji's saying? And at some point, does he plan to deviate? Is it inherent, like, or is it subconscious, unconsciously, or is he like, always in the back of his mind that he knows or he feels that or he understands that Kashin Koji wouldn't give him all of the knowledge that he would ask or all of the things that he would be privy to wanting to know in the situation? So I don't know, but ultimately I think they should go deeper into Boruto's perspective from that standpoint and not just make it seem like they're just all buddy all the time.
Yeah, I think there's a difference just for me between like someone who teaches you and like someone you call like your master.
Right.
And
Yeah.
for me, I think if I look at some of the great masters in at least battle shonen, but definitely just in general in pop culture, like Yoda or, a Jiraiya or a Genkai from Yu Yu Hakusho, like these characters, they're not just teaching them powers and abilities and using them as assets or tools to meet an end, like Koji seems to be using Boruto. They try to instill values into them. That's what Sasuke certainly did with Boruto. It wasn't just, hey, learn this shuriken technique. Hey, learn this new lightning style. Hey, learn these sword techniques, right? He sat down with him, had personal and intimate conversations with him, developed him as a man, and tried to give him like morals and values and blah, blah, blah.
Life lesson.
So, yeah, like, and you saw that through Yoda, you saw that through Genkai, especially with Yusuke, because that boy needed it in Yu Yu Hakusho. And I think that's the distinction there. Like, I was going to make this video, who's like all of Boruto's masters, who's the best master? He was trained by Kakashi. He was trained by a little bit by, well, I don't know if he was trained by Konohamaru, but it was his sensei, I guess. Maybe he learned something.
Well, from the
but
he did.
Oh, yeah, that is true. So, yeah, so like, I think Sasuke is definitely his master, and that's why he refers to him as master, Sasuke, and not master Koji, because he's not his master, he's just his teacher. But yeah, there's a distinction, I think. And Koji, yeah, he's using Boruto as a tool, as a means to an end. And I really did like how Boruto flared up and kind of just started cooking. But I get you. The chapter's fresh, so maybe you wanted to spend a little bit more time to kind of cook with it before you gave a more definitive rating. I get that, but what about you, Free Game? Like, why is this not a 10 for you?
Why is it not a 10 for me? I don't. As I marinate on it, I do think I want to give it a 10. No, all right. So no, I'll give it a 9. Basically, the reason why I would give it a 9 is because I wanted to see more Sarda and like Mitsuki. And the beginning of the chapter threw me off with them just talking about their feelings and stuff. Like I know that's needed. Like you said, they're trying to grab another demographic, but I'm not a part of that demographic. So. So that's what probably dropped it down just like maybe a notch to like a 9.5. But everything else is really interesting. I like how they switched between the Sand Village and going back to Konoha and discussing things and filling in like gaps on what Shikamaru told Konohamaru as far as how to win the battle. And basically my favorite part was the ending, the cliffhanger. The cliffhanger is what sold it for me.
Okay.
Not the cliffhanger, I'm so sorry. Boruto and Kashin Koji having that conversation like I was talking about before. That conversation, it like it's looks like it's starting to turn. Like his trust in Kashin Koji is starting to fickle a little bit. He's starting to question, why are we doing this and why are we doing it in like this type of way? So, like when you said you think he's going to deviate from Kashin Koji, I completely agree with that. When I was reading the chapter, that's the vibes I was getting as well, because Kashin Koji is only feeding him
Pieces, bits and
pieces of information. Yeah, like he bits and pieces. He's not giving them everything, and that would piss me off too. Like, bro, like tell me what the hell I need to do. Like, why can't I go for like help and stuff? Why do you need me this bad? Like, like he's not giving them that information. But from a storytelling aspect, I totally understand it because we're learning as we go along as well of what the actual plan is. And one thing that I want to get you guys' opinion on, do you think that Kashin Koji has an ulterior motive? Like, do you think he has an evil motive? Do you think that he's working with like Amado or something? Because Amado did create him and program him as well.
Nah, I don't think he's working with Amado at the very least. I like Kashin Koji. He's one of my favorite characters in the Boruto franchise. So, but I'm not gonna allow my bias to not let me say that the story is kind of alluding to Kashin Koji playing an antagonistic role.
I'm sorry, Black Lucha. It's like a background noise, something rattling, or can we?
I think my man was eating some chips.
Oh, who's that? Oh, Zach? Is that Kiddo?
Kiddo's mic is
Nah,
muted.
Kiddo's muted. I thought you was eating some chips, getting down on some Boruto.
That's definitely not me.
What is that?
Definitely not me. Hold on, let me mute you real quick, Black. Nope, definitely not him.
Okay, so can you mute Kiddo Maki?
The Kiddo's already mute though.
Can you? Is it possible to do something? Where's this coming from? Where's this?
Somebody's literally chewing.
Yeah, I hear it, but I don't know who the fuck it is.
So there's 4 people here. We can use process of elimination.
I think is it Kiddo? I think it's Kiddo.
I don't hear it no more.
Hello?
How is it Kiddo Maki if his Kiddo? Were you
I
just
know
eating
his
some chips or something? Kiddo, were you just eating something?
Yeah.
We could hear it, but your mic was muted.
Mic was muted.
What?
That's crazy.
Nah, StreamYard is dog shit, bro. This
That's why I was like, wait. I was like, hold on.
This shit,
First time that ever happened on this shit. What the fuck?
I'm like, hold on. I see the mic muted, but
that's why I was so confused. I was like, yo, what is happening, bro? Black Uchiha's whole point gonna get like talked over the crunching of the ruffles. Like, what the fuck?
I thought he was the one eating chips.
No, I started hearing that, and I'm like, huh? I thought it was like a one-off thing, so I had just kept going, and then it kept going. And Mello said, "I'm like, all right, well, yeah."
Yeah, I heard it too. I was about to stop too, but Mello got to it first. I'm sorry.
Can you,
Mike, what was you saying?
like restate your point if you remember it?
Ooh, can y'all?
You was talking about Kashin Koji.
Oh yeah, okay. So I'm like, the vibe I'm getting from Kashin Koji this chapter, it kind of alludes to him, despite the whole point I was making, despite me being like one of his biggest fans and stuff like that. It alludes to him playing an antagonistic role for Boruto in the future, or at least an antagonistic role to the story at some point in the future because of his firm ideal and beliefs and willingness to go past certain lines in order to achieve a certain outcome. So it might turn into a thing where everything is all peaches and roses with Kashin Koji. It starts to get a little rocky, and then ideals and then heads start to clash and collide going down the line, and we ultimately see where they split paths and diverge. So I think it might even be something like that, because one thing I talked about and when the spoilers first came out for the text was how Kashin Koji speaking with Boruto and Boruto asking the questions and him just saying, I just can't afford you, or we just can't afford to sacrifice you. It's kind of letting me see like, okay, so Kashin Koji is trying to say the chances of success are likely and it's definitely there without your includence into the fight because of your strength, your obvious strength. But that doesn't take away the fact of that success comes with a possible death or two on the team, but it still leads to Matsuri and Ryu being defeated, but they come home with possibly without Yodo, or maybe without Raya, or maybe without Mitsuki, or maybe without Sarada, or maybe without Konohamaru. But that's something that is necessary, and Kashin Koji sees for ultimately down the line, this leads to the future where Boruto frees Sasuke and they ultimately defeat Jura, and whatever happens, happens. But Kashin Koji can't tell Boruto that, like, oh, in order for this to play out, Mitsuki is going to have to die in this battle. But Mitsuki's death is going to be integral going forward for the demise of the Shinju, not only present, but going forward, and the ultimate saving of Sasuke and all the other people trapped in the tree. But Boruto, knowing, despite the shift in his character and the stoicness and willingness, we see him being able to put the mission above like his feelings and his personal wants and needs. It still would be in character for Boruto to say, you seeing Mitsuki dying, I'm gonna step in regardless of what you say. It would be in character for Boruto to still step in.
Facts. Facts. I hear what you're
That's
saying.
that's why I believe Koji is going to be an antagonist at some point.
Right.
Because his methods, even if they want to reach the same or similar conclusion, I believe that their methods are going to wildly differ. And because you're right, like I look at this scenario, I'm like, why can't you at least, lie to him? Like, are you not capable of that? Like just give him a number. He's just asking for something. And the fact that you're not giving him anything, it's just
that just says everything that he needs to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he
at
could have
some
said
point,
it's like a 80% chance they're gonna win or some shit like that. Yeah, a lot of the boy.
yeah. So like at some point, I think they're going like they're going to cross paths and they're going to butt heads in a real like substantive way. And I'm going to be very curious to see like who's Koji, like who's going to be Koji's new little puppet. It might be Kawaki, and then that's how Kawaki gets to Boruto's power level, because Koji makes a shift, and then he's like, okay, well Boruto he's going left, but now I need to kind of put my eggs in the Kawaki basket. It's interesting.
But so he would have had to see a timeline where that happened, though. So it seemed like he's trying to follow one timeline, unless that timeline that he foresaw that happened. Well, he had to see Boruto in that timeline when he had that moment. He had to see Boruto like questioning him and seeing that conversation at one point in time.
They can find themselves on a certain brand, because I think next chapter Boruto is going to deviate from the timeline. He's not going to listen to Kashin Koji and stay in the hideout. So once something like that happens, and it's already been explained by Kashin Koji and how his powers work, so like they're going to maybe he finds himself in a branch where, okay, now he's looking at all of the new possibilities that didn't exist prior to whatever choice was made. And in these possibilities, because I think it's still in character for Kawaki to make a drastic decision, because he's obviously willing to kill Boruto and do all of these crazy things. And it's not out of character for Kawaki to do it, quote unquote, for the better of the world. So Kawaki could be the ideal figure, because he's going to listen. He's going to do what he has to do. He already considers himself like disposable, but he has to be the one to complete the task in order for everything to end. And then he will be disposed at the end. So he can use Kawaki would be seen as like an ideal piece or a pawn in a possible branched off possibilities or a timeline where, okay, using Kawaki would ensure, okay, he's going to definitely pursue the death of Boruto and Momoshiki, because that's something he wants. The death of Code, the Shinju, he's not going to play fickle with them in terms of like trying to waver the possibilities, or wavering when it comes to befriending the Shinju or understanding their babies. There's no evil instinct. Kawaki is gonna just blow them to smithereens whenever he gets the opportunity to. So all of the boxes check off, and it just takes the knowledge. And obviously that would just require Kashin Koji. So if things play out certainly in a way where I think Boruto makes a choice where Kashin Koji just sees it, and then he looks at all the futures, and then he sees, okay, it's inevitable now. We're in a position where Boruto, regardless, is going to defy me or go against me. So now let's focus on using Kawaki to ultimately take out all of the pieces on the board and clear everything up, and then just have the Earth be how it is at the end.
With Kashin Koji being a prior Kara member, do you think that Kawaki will even consider working with him, though?
It's tough to say.
Seeing how he just attacked Amado.
I mean, he knows, he would know that Kashin Koji and Amado helped him escape. I mean, the animosity for Amado is more so because, like, obviously he tested on him and he did all those experimentations on him and stuff like that. So
it wouldn't really be about what Kawaki wants, because
Right.
Koji would just manipulate his knowledge of the future and the present to arrive at certain conclusions that he wants. So he'll just like shift the conditions in his favor. But it gets like really difficult to kind of have this conversation with a person who can see like infinite possible futures. That's why I was like, it's always interesting when people like, oh, is it like, but did he see or like what? Like, it's like he had. So just imagine that in infinity, whatever you think of should be possible because it's infinite. It never ceases.
Exactly.
So it's just, yeah. So like we shouldn't even be asking, oh, is it possible that he like could he have seen? Could he have seen? Is not even the right way to phrase the question. It's like
It's all.
yeah, no, he did. Whatever you're thinking of, like he saw a scene where like Jura stepped on a Lego and died. That happened.
Mm-mm.
That 100% is the thing he could see because it's infinite. Like it's all encompassing. So he literally said,
Stepping
I can
on
see
Legos,
all
motherfucker.
possible futures. So that dude can literally see anything that can happen. So whatever can happen, will happen, has happened in these possible futures that he's seen. So it gets real difficult to say, hey, like Boruto. So when I say like it would make more sense from my perspective if Koji would have given him just whatever number to like kind of ease his tensions, because it could be the case that because he's like in a heightened state right now, Boruto, he's asking these questions, he's concerned about his like future wifey or whatever the hell, right? He made a promise to his master and he's not like in a position to fulfill that promise. It could be the case that because of that, because he's not getting the information or something to satiate that tension, he actually does deviate from the plan and then goes out there and then all hell breaks loose. But at the same time, I have to look at Koji and say, well, you should have seen that outcome happen based upon the answer that you gave. So did you give that answer to make sure that Boruto left and deviated from the plan, even though on the surface you're saying that he shouldn't do it? So like it's weird.
I see
it's
what you're.
difficult to kind of measure like what exactly is Koji's intent. What exactly does he want?
But if you was that who somebody just said something?
We heard you, kiddo, and your shit's still muted, bro.
Bro, that's crazy.
No, that's actually diabolical, bro. Like
That's insane, bro.
that's evil.
I was about to say you got like two mics maybe or something like that, or headphones or something.
Do you have a camera mic?
He got it muted through stream yard. So
I'm using the maybe it's the XLR. I don't know. Maybe that's why. I'm gonna switch to the.
Do you have a mute button on your microphone?
No. Well, it's through the XLR, so it doesn't work.
Okay, you're speaking.
Unless I use the USB.
You're speaking freaking Swahili to me right now. What the hell? What?
No, it's.
Bro,
I'll just handle it off stream. I'll start it out.
All right.
But yeah, no, I just think that part is like really interesting. The whole Boruto Koji dynamic and just kind of ascertaining like just because Koji says or does something doesn't mean it necessarily is the case. Like there was this moment where Kawaki took the toad after Boruto got sniped by Jura and like destroyed it. He's like, oh, what a troublesome turn of events. And people like, oh, he didn't see that coming. He was surprised by that. I'm like, well, maybe, but maybe it was just that like whatever actions that he was taking in the present to arrive at a certain conclusion, time fought back in some sense and it deviated from what he wanted. He's like, damn, I saw that happen, but damn, I didn't want to arrive at this conclusion.
Yeah,
this is
like the steps that he saw that ended up with that weren't the steps that he currently took, so that's why it's surprising.
Right, but it doesn't mean he didn't know it would happen. He just didn't want it to happen. So it's like it's really if you're not quick with it, like your mind, your smart, your wit, your intelligence, if you're not able to like analyze this shit with some depth, if you're just looking at the surface level, you might get lost in the fucking sauce. You might think whatever Koji puts forth is what it is, when it could just be like I said. He's telling he in fact, it may theory be the case or hypothesis that he absolutely needs Boruto to show up on that battlefield, but he needs it to happen in a certain way. Because like I need to go down this course. It may seem nonsensical, but like this is just like the path I have to take, and I need to say certain things in certain ways and blah 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 to make sure that he does what I need him to do. Because if I do it in a way that you might think is conventionally intelligent or makes more common sense, we're dealing with fucking multiverses and timelines and shit. This shit is I think your like conventional way of thinking about this shit, you should like question that. Like, yeah, my normal sense of logic might not apply to this like scenario, and maybe the way he's doing it does. I don't know, but it's like really interesting with Koji and his prescience. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a villain or an antagonist, and if it happens, I'm just gonna say I told you so. It's the same thing with the whole. I said Boruto needs to question the morality of his own actions or the morality of Koji's plan. Everybody, nobody cares about the morality conversation, Mello. We just want to talk about power scaling. So it looks like Ikimoto cares.
The
It
whole
looks like
thing with the
Ikimoto
villain,
cares.
with the whole villain side though, I'm trying to think like his whole motive to be a villain. I could see the antagonistic part, just like they just disagree, and I don't think Kashin Koji would be willing to defer his opinion. But as far as villain, like personal goals, personal means, I just can't even see Kashin Koji's character.
What's up?
Yo.
I can hear you.
What's up?
Bro, I'm so over this.
Oh, you're mute. Oh wow.
It's StreamYard, bro. Hop on Discord, call somebody and see if you're having the same mic problems on a different like platform. And then if you're not, then we know it's this one.
Yeah, I'll answer it for you. I'll mute myself on here. Go ahead. Yeah, chop it up.
But what was I saying? I'm sorry.
Koji, the morality of Boruto's actions and Koji's plan. I'm not sure where you were going based upon what I had said, but I'm not sure.
I was about to go somewhere.
Yeah. Well, until you think about that, I'll shift topics a little bit. There was a moment where Mitsari had information about what Boruto had done with the toad, or the frog, as she says. He placed it there, and Ryu asks, "How do you know?" And she says, "The trees told me." And he's like, "Bro, we're in the desert." And she's like, "Well, there's trees underground. They're everywhere." So what I was thinking was that this could have something to do with the God tree and the way that it stores a record of all life. It seems like there's some entity or some program or some kind of mechanic at play. It doesn't need to be a person or a thing, but some mechanic at play that is like actively recording things or actively has knowledge about like what's happening on this planet. Yeah. And that could tie back to Kaguya when she conquered Earth. And maybe I brought up on one of my past streams, Hagoromo, when he and Hamura defeated Kaguya, the God tree was still present all across the world, and it took decades, certainly 10 years plus, because his kids, when they were tasked, Indranashra, tasked with the mission of getting rid of these remnants of the God tree, they were teenagers or at least young men. So clearly Hashirama was an older man, so clearly it must have been like a substantial amount of time that they were just there present. So I'm wondering, like, what is Earth? Like, what is it? Like, how do these people, like, even going back to the toad with the prophecy about Naruto, like, how do they gain this information? How did Urashiki, when he showed up in the anime's continuity with Momoshiki and Kenshiki, they didn't know anything about Kaguya and what happened. So how did Urashiki get that information? He got it relatively quickly. It's just super interesting stuff about how these mechanics work. But like, what do you think about that portion of the manga, Black?
So I'm saying with the whole Matsuri's connection and when she explained the woods, I'm thinking, and it kind of alludes to what I said earlier of how I think she might be more important than Moegi's actual character to the story. But I'm thinking they can find a way to connect Matsuri's character, because it seems as if she's the only Shinju that has a deeper connection to this tree that we saw heal Hidari and that she mentions to Ryu, and we see she's kind of the one controlling or influencing the Thorn Soul Bulb as Hidari's revived and as Ryu is born. So something is there with Matsuri, and Yodo mentions that she seems to be like some type of sensory type of ninja. So it's interesting that they can definitely use this as a medium to explain more about the God tree, more about the divine trees itself, like they themselves, the Shinju, task themselves finding about their true nature. So maybe through them, we get to find out more about the divine tree, and ultimately it leads way and segues us into Otsutsuki lore, which is something I've been craving for, and something that I'm starting to notice that Ikimoto is driving our attention away from. Like less and less we're hearing about Otsutsuki this, Otsutsuki that, and it's more so just about, you know, the inner conflict with the Shinjus, the tree people, or how to save, you know, Moegi, or how to save Shinki, and what's going down with Shikamaru and the feudal lords, and they're pressing Boruto. And Boruto, every chance they get, they trying to emphasize so much Boruto's the traitor, Boruto's the bad guy. So I'm like, there's so many things that they're using and riding along with right now, but that's something that I'm keeping my eye out on, because it's definitely like it's not happening for no reason. And I think each of these Shinju, they have distinct abilities or specific abilities that are specific to them. And when it comes to Matsuri specifically and her connection to these quote unquote trees and the still like the large mystery behind it, I think they have so much room. And the fact that she's already playing an interesting role, because we already seen what happened when Jura came across his target. It was smoke. He attacked Himawari. He talked. He was intrigued in conversation, but at the end of the day, he attempted to eat her. He attempted to devour her. When Hidari came across Sarada, same thing. Chidori to the face. Boom. You know, trying to catch this Chidori. You know, he attacked her. It was smoke. When Mamushi sensed Ada, he walked straight up to her face and let her know, like, I'm gonna eat you, like you're my target. But then when we see Matsuri, she's conflicted and confused. So I think it's definitely a good doorway. I don't know where Ikimoto can go with it. So I hope he finds a way, because it's definitely there from the God tree and then ultimately to more Otsutsuki lore going forward into the story.
Yeah, I really like. We can still hear you. So it's definitely this platform, probably.
Yeah, continue.
I really like some writers can write themselves in a corner. I really like the runway Ikimoto has before him, and just the way he's been writing the story. There's so many paths he can take, and it's a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, I did find it interesting that they all do seem to have these, like, or to a certain degree, some kind of sensory perception that's individual to them. Like Ryu could sense code where seemingly the other ones couldn't.
Yeah.
Right. And she can sense things or have gained past and knowledge, almost like a pseudo Senrigan, through the trees. And it might not even be like on the surface level, you're like, oh, trees, oh, God tree, blah. It might just be her like interpretation of what it is, but it's not actually trees. It might be something else that she's calling a tree. It's like super interesting with these characters and like how they believe, or it could literally be some kind of like tree or whatever the case may be, some dormant Ten Tails entity that, or the planet is a Biju or something, like some weird like mechanic. Or even you have like Mamushi who can sense Ada when she's like spying in with her Senrigan, yet and still, and like nobody seemed at the time to be able to pick up on this. Right. Juro was kind of indifferent during the Ada stuff with Mamushi, and he was indifferent when Cole got discovered. So I'm not entirely sure if he didn't know or he just didn't. He did, but he just didn't care. But yeah, like it's super interesting with that stuff. I'm wondering what we'll get from Hirari in regards to some kind of like potential sensory perception. But yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. You guys know what we're talking about? You got want me to restate
comment or
sorry? What'd you say, Black?
No, I was saying y'all want to chime in. I was asking Free or Keto if they wanted.
Yeah, do you guys know what the topic is?
No, because we was trying to fix his audio.
So I brought up the moment where she's talking about what Boruto did with the toad / frog, and Ryu's like, "How do you know?" And she's like, "The trees tell me." So we were getting into that part of it, how it could be linked to like the god trees, the prophecy of the toad about Naruto, how Urashiki gathered knowledge when they first arrive on the planet during the anime's continuity, or even, you know, something about how the god tree records a record of all life. Like it seems she has like past knowledge through this mechanic. But what do you guys think that is? Like what's happening with that?
I mean, damn, that's interesting. I do remember they saying that the God tree, like, it collects all the knowledge on the planet. So, I mean, I think you're onto something with that.
And like, They probably sense like, yeah, oh yeah, Boruto
So
left strong hair, Matsuri.
yeah, so since what's his name again? What's that? What's his name again?
You
Ryu.
roasted me.
For you, yeah.
Yeah, Ryu. So like he couldn't sense it. So is it really like a 10 tails thing, or is it more
True.
so?
True.
But I did find it, because I think Mello just mentioned it. Even in the code situation, Matsuri was surprised to see code. And she's like, oh, when you have the question mark and stuff. But Ryu could have, well, Ryu sensed him, right? So the sensory thing is a bit weird. Like, why could he sense code and she couldn't? But then here she can sense and he couldn't. That, or he doesn't understand how to. I guess you could look at it that way as well. Maybe he could use the trees, but because he's like young and stuff, he was born yesterday, so he doesn't know how. Maybe that's why, or maybe he can't. So we have no idea.
Or maybe that's like her special ability. Like,
Her
for instance, how like the bug Senju, he can infiltrate Ada's Senryugan. As far as we know right now, nobody else can do that. So maybe each of them have their own specific ability.
Specific sensory. It's even like it's implied that it's his ability for sure, because I think Yodo said that Matsuri was a sensory type.
Yeah.
So like even the story is just kind of implying that she's a sensory type. It didn't say like they are sensory types, like she is. It specifies. But
Well, just in that regard, the information would be coming from Yodo. I don't think she would have any means in which to measure anyone else being a sensory type amongst the Shinju. She was just, I think, going based off of the information she had about that specific Shinju.
The conversation.
Yeah, so, no, I just mean like
it wouldn't exclude. Yeah. Like we know he has something, like, because he was picking up on this guy in the way that they weren't. I suspect, this is my suspicion, that these sensory abilities, Mamushi's ability to sense Ado with her Senryugan, Ryu with code, who could be linked to some Ishiki shenanigans with his karma or whatever. Maybe, I don't know. He has like Shibai cells, so maybe there's some shenanigans there. Or it could be some kind of connection with the belt marks and their creation itself through code. Or what Mitsari did in this chapter here, 17. I think maybe all of these were one thing, and as they got divided into separate entities, the abilities split. So if they united or something like that, or came into some like original source origin, then they would have all of those abilities. But because they're like separate entities, these things are like kind of being deviated
right out
to them on an individual basis. Perhaps, I don't know, just me trying to make sense of it, but it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, it's like the pain, the 4 or 5 pains or whatever. They all had separate abilities because it was split.
Yeah.
Sort of like that is what you're saying, right?
Right, exactly. But you have Nagato, when he gets reanimated and he gets full power, he can do all of them at once.
All of them at once, yeah.
Right, something like that, yeah. And then that would pay homage to the Pain Invasion arc, which they've been doing a lot of. So there's that.
Yeah,
great. Except for they ain't destroyed the village. That's the only thing.
Not yet.
I mean, the village gets destroyed. I'm not going to put it past them not to do it at this point. I will say this. I think it's possible that it happened not possible. It definitely happened in a future Koji saw. I mean, he's literally like warning them against this stuff. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
Hey, kiddo, how do you feel about how they've been progressing with Jura as a character? As far as
Jura?
Yeah. As far as what we got in this chapter and previous ones, because we ain't speak in a while. You haven't been on in a minute.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's I will say it's somewhat convenient, I feel like the entire plan with Jura is just, let's hope he just doesn't feel like attacking today. It feels a bit too it feels like it's just too up to chance for me, like it's just like like you have those strategies and plans and so on. You're like, okay, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that and this is gonna happen, but this just feels like it's not really them doing anything. It's just more so like Jura just deciding to read books today. I don't know. It just feels a bit too convenient because when he loses, inevitably, it's gonna be like, yeah, bro, you probably should have, consumed Boruto all those times that you had the chance to. It's gonna be like I understand that he's evolving and he's trying to like get information and stuff at the same time, but I feel like like you have someone you see as a threat because I think he said he was in like chapter 13. So don't get rid of him, find him, put some effort into it. He's not putting effort into it. I feel like when he dies, he's gonna be like, yeah, bro, you probably should have, So he seems like he's evolving. He's pretty smart and stuff. I do find it interesting that he somehow has money.
That
He
was
doesn't have a
weird.
job. He doesn't.
Mello
That's why.
said he
That's why I said
money.
Back to
he ran Sasuke's pockets, bro. That's what I was saying.
Bro. He ran Code's pockets, bro. Went through his locker room in the 10,000 dimension.
Yeah, he stole
so-
Victor's cash. Yeah, that makes sense. He found
Yeah,
well
like
stacked.
but he's like, yo, bro stole money to go buy books. Just steal the books, bro. What are we doing here?
That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying on my stream. Like, it'd be really funny if they had like a bank robbery arc, just before the like some oceans, like they could just go in there and kill everybody, but like the absurdity of it would be like they actually plan out some strategical way to get the money, not factoring in their godlike powers. So it's kind of
and even then, like I feel like
wait, and then he told the dude, he said, "Keep the change. It's an event." So he's coming. He's coming back for more.
Yeah, he's
keep the change from money that's not his.
Bro, he put a whole stack though. Like,
Jura got right there, bro.
Jura got
whatever he wants to be his, it's his. Yeah. So
that man got bread. Look at this stack he got right here.
He be hunting ninja, bro. He hunting ninja.
You see that
no
stack
books
my
worth
man's
that
got?
much money, bro. Sure, he need to go to the strip club or something, bro. Like, what's going on?
Ain't nobody in the bingo book worth that much money.
I know, bro. Have fucking what you like Kakuzu tell it. Let me count the money. But you have like you have like freaking Mitsari twerking. Yo, let it rain, bro. You got all that money. Let's go. Let's go, Shinju. Let's make that happen. But when it comes to Jura though, just what you were saying, kiddo. The character, man, it's like super interesting, that guy, because I get what you're saying, but at the same time, what's definitive to me now is that Ikimoto, these aren't villains, obviously, and they're antagonists in only so far as that they oppose what the main character seems to want to do. But Ikimoto, I think the brilliance of this, which impresses me, is that he seems to be blurring the lines between who's actually the bad people here and who's the good people. And I think that's like a really interesting perspective. I think the Shinju themselves seem kind of not aimless, but they don't seem very they seem preoccupied by a multitude of things, and there's a lack of focus, I think. And that feels a little disjointed, a little uncomfortable. But I think that's the point, is because they are just doing them. In the same way a child can have goals or things they're trying to accomplish, but they can drift off in an instant and do something completely different. And I think that is realistic to what these entities kind of are, or where they are at right now. And the real enemy is time. Because the way that they're dealing with Jura, they're not just hoping that he does something. I mean, I suppose that factors into it to a degree, but it's really, hey, I can see these futures. I'm trying to make moves in the present to arrive at. So Koji is trying to manipulate everybody based upon what he's seeing in the present. But the more he does this, or rather, the more information that's known about all of this stuff, the more things are going to change. Right? We all know this. I don't need to repeat this.
Right.
But that's the fight. It's against time. Time's the villain here. Time's the real enemy. It's not the Shinju. The Shinju absolutely aren't villains. And they absolutely are making moves against Jura. It's just not in a conventional way. And none of this is conventional, which is the brilliance of it. That's the thing that like got my head spinning with this chapter. outside of like the Shikamaru stuff, which he's invoking certain concepts that I think need to be invoked. He's saying certain things that an adult should be kind of pondering, like, hey, are these people moral? Are they evil? Should we just do X, Y, and Z? Like that is something I don't think Naruto would have necessarily arrived at in the exact same way. Certainly not. But I think that's kind of my conclusion on it all, is that that's what they're doing. But
ultimately, do you agree
I feel
with?
like
sorry.
Oh no. I was just saying, do you agree with what Shikamaru said? Like ultimately, how he decided to carry out the plan.
I agree with everything that he said, with perhaps the exception. I think maybe I'm conflating the leaks translations versus like the canon ones. But because we got the leaks like one day before the actual material,
Right.
So which was ridiculous. They just should not have dropped it. It was dumb. But regardless, I'm a content creator, so it helped me make some money, so it's fine. But that aside, I would say I agree with like his thought process and like how he arrived at the conclusions, or rather the conclusions. The how, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure Koji told him he was speaking a little too definitive for it to just be a hypothesis, in my opinion.
Nice.
But so
that's what I think as well.
I'm fine with the conclusions, but I would have so my point is, I think in the leaks it said that befriend them, and basically befriend them, but if it doesn't work out that they like are friendly or whatever, then betray them. But in the like the canon official release, I think it's just like betray them. Befriend them and then betray them, like no matter what, maybe. But I think I'm conflating the two. I have to go reread the chapter again.
I think the official makes more sense because it lines up with what's said afterwards. Is it they're having like because Konohamaru disagrees? Is like do we like really want to do this? And
he's telling him to be heartless.
Yeah,
they're not
heartless and stuff. So well, Konohamaru isn't, but I feel like the Ryu squad might.
Sorry, not gonna do it either.
My boy Ryu, man.
Yodo is literally like, yeah, I'm gonna do anything it takes to bring back Ryu. So yeah, she's definitely gonna fuck shit.
They made it in a way where I actually find myself
bring back Shinki. I mean,
not necessarily on the side of the Shinju, but I'm like kind of conflicted in a sense where like they're obviously, we the audience know they're being deceived. So in a way, it's like, come on, Matsuri, realize he's trying to trick you, or come on, Ryu, like don't fall for it, bro. They about to jump you.
I feel like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say, like, I find myself in that medium.
I think that's the point, though, right?
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, the Shinju situation is a bit interesting to me because, they're not villains. Well, not all of them, but like, they have certain tendencies, even like instinctual tendencies, because even we look at the chapter here when I think Sarda is talking to Ryu. This dude was literally born a few hours ago, hasn't done anything, hasn't experienced life, just came out the womb, and he's like, oh yeah, before I spoke to you guys, I was just gonna kill every ninja I saw. Yeah, I'm like, why would you want to kill every ninja just like that? And you'd think, maybe Jura told him something or anything, but he goes on to say, yeah, Jura told him that they were nice people and they're good. But still, he felt like he wanted to kill every ninja he saw, until like they were nice to him just now. So like, even though they're not villains, they still have some instinctual tendencies to kill people, not just devour. Well, at least Ryu. I'm wondering why, because and even look at Matsuri. I don't think Matsuri has that tendency, because we look back to I think chapter 15 with Shinki, and like she wasn't like, oh, let me just kill everyone here because I'm evil, like she was being reasonable, I'll let people go and all that stuff. But Ryu, he just wants to kill ninja. So I did find it interesting. And even Jura, even though he's like a bit, swaying over there, he's reading books and he's being nice, even though he's stealing money, but he's being nice. You go back to chapter 5 when these guys because even like I'll look at these guys and I'll be like, okay, cool. I'll give I'll give Matsuri some wiggle room here. I'll give Hidari, because even Hidari in chapter 5 was like, do we really need to do this? And he's like questioning what Jura is saying to him. Then you go to Jura specifically. Jura is manipulating these guys to do what he wants them to do. Like even at the point of birth, he's instigating them to manipulate the emotions that they're feeling to devour people. Why is that? Like why does he want them to do that? And you think about it, remove Jura from the situation, remove Jura from chapter 5, what would Matsuri do? What would she have become? Like would she go around like hunting people? Would she just be a normal person, looking for lusting after Konohamaru? Would Hidari want to kill Sarada? Would he want to protect Sarada? Like you look at it, Matsuri here, her emotions for Konohamaru, the person she's connected to, the person she wants to devour, quote unquote, even though that's not what she initially wanted to do. He like her emotions in the heightened state that it's in is wanting to like have a relation, like have some type of emotional connection to him, right? She doesn't want to kill. She when she saw him, it's not like Hidari when he saw Sarada. Oh, let me go kill Sarada immediately. It's not like Bug when he's like, yo, let me just when I find you, I'm gonna kill you. She's like, she's acting on that emotional impulse, right? Why is it that if you assume that it's because of because let's say what's her name, Moegi liked Konohamaru, that's why, right? Let's assume that's why. It seems like becoming a Shinju heightens that emotion, right? That's what it's doing. If when it's kind of relaying that to Matsuri, why is it that Hidari, instead of his paternal instincts to protect Sarada being heightened, he wants to kill Sarada? So even absent of Jura being present, because you'd assume that Matsuri was there, Jura told her to devour, but even still, when she saw Konohamaru, her instinct wasn't to just kill him, right? That connection that she had to Moegi came out. That romantic feeling that Moegi had for Konohamaru came out. But for Hidari, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna kill my child. Like it's a bit weird. It's a bit interesting.
So I think for Jura, and I'm not saying that this is what you're saying, but it kind of feels like this is maybe your implication, is that he has some like malicious intent towards shaping who they are at birth to like meet his ends, or maybe not even malicious, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Personal, selfish.
No, I wouldn't say malicious, but more so that he has his own like views on like and even explained it in chapter. Like he went on this entire tirade about like instinct toward drive. I don't remember everything he said. But it's like even like he was born yesterday, but even still he had that takeaway, right? Even though he was just born, and he instilled that ideology into the Shinju, even though they didn't have it initially, right? And that's why I do find it interesting why he had that specific ideology and they didn't.
So just to kind of start, the Shinju are no different than humans in this regard. So I can bring up a plethora of really negative natural occurrences throughout eras, throughout different civilizations that never even met, that just reoccur within our species, that are far and away more evil, some may say, than what has been demonstrated here. So in that sense, I just want to start there on a foundational level. If we're going to condemn them for like this, not to say that we are, but if we were to, then we condemn ourselves. I'll start there, and then just kind of moving forwards. I think there is a disposition that Jura had. By some means, they seem to have knowledge, obviously beyond their years, by some mechanic that has yet to be explained, but we know it's there because it's common sense, so we can work with it. So I think they have. I'll start with Jura. Jura, he has a biological disposition. He has some kind of ability to arrive at certain conclusions by some means, like anybody else would. You have a child, you put them in a room, they're gonna find something to do, regardless, right? They just will. It's just natural. Definitely. So he arrived at a conclusion based upon his natural little proclivities, and however he arrived at those proclivities, whatever. And basically my point is he's telling them what he knows. He's doing his best, basically, right? So there may be another way, a better way, and he's just, hey, this is the way I have found. So instead of just having you wander about aimlessly, maybe you would have arrived at your own conclusions, maybe not. But here's what I've arrived at. I'm going to give you the tool that I have, and I'm going to let you interpret like whatever you discover for yourself. So for Mitsari, she doesn't understand her feelings. I don't think it's necessarily heightened from Moege's romantic or possible romantic feelings for Konohamaru to Moege. I think human emotions are very volatile in general. We just grow to regulate them as we mature. A child, that's the reason why children have outbursts, because they don't know how to regulate and control those heightened emotions. That's just the kind of thing we are, very emotional thing. So I think the emotions are probably just normal, but because she's young, certainly mentally, and because she's not human, not fully anyways, then there's very much so like this kind of like volatileness that you would see from a child. And that I think over time she'll be able to understand her emotions and regulate them better. And the same goes for Hirari. I think he just interpreted what he was feeling in a way that was volatile, in much of a way that children do. But I don't think necessarily like Sasuke has some malicious intent, but he may have some kind of anxiety as it pertains to Sarada and how he abandoned her as a child. And maybe he has some kind of apprehension that was never truly fully resolved. Because Sasuke is the kind of character that clings to his despair, right. Even in times of peace. Like, bro is just trying to atone, bro. Like Naruto, Sakura, like, yo, come home. What are you doing? Like, nobody cares about this shit no more. Not really. He's like, oh, I need to atone for 35 billion years. Like, relax. It's like, yeah, we've moved past this shit to a degree. You serve some time and whatever. You're an asset. But he himself hadn't gotten over that. And I suspect it's the same thing with how he abandoned his daughter. And so maybe when Hirari attacks, he's not able to accurately ascertain like what this emotion is because they're newborn entities. So I don't think, obviously, there's no malicious intent from Jura. I just think he's trying to provide them with a tool that he first arrived at, or that he did arrive at in general. And then they are left to interpret those conclusions based upon that tool. But he just gave them a starting point. And I think that's kind of my take on it. But
yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was saying. I'm saying like there is obviously like some disposition that Jura, like some reason why he had that specific ideology, right? You don't know, like, well, we have no idea, how the Ten Tails, got that, information. Maybe I did kind of, play around with the idea that maybe the Ten Tails, has, absorbed someone before. It goes back to it's a fun theory. I was thinking
through the claw marks, but I mean not someone, but like something
like
that
chakra.
could be linked to
all those people.
Yeah. And chakra contains genetic information and like data. Well, not necessarily genetic, but data. But
more like chakra signature. Some amount, I guess. But yeah, I was playing around with the idea, and I don't know if like the Ten Tails, in like in Jigen's dimension was like a baby was like a newborn Ten Tails. Like we know it isn't Ishiki's Ten Tails, right? Because Amado said like he had no idea like who it belonged to or where it came from, right? It's like you'd assume, like I feel like I said this before, like I feel like when the author does this and he's like, kind of like saying something but he's not saying it, but then kind of like hints for something but he's not like outright giving us what's going on. I feel like we can like take that into account and say maybe. So it's like Amado, like you'd assume Amado would say, well, this is the Ten Tails, it's in Ishiki's dimension, so it's Ishiki's Ten Tails, but he goes out of his way to say that he has no idea where this Ten Tails came from. I think we should take that into account. And if we assume that Kage and Ishiki came and they planted their Ten Tails, which is a bit iffy, based on the anime story guy, but if we want to take the manga canon, I guess it's a bit tricky. But assuming that this Ten Tails was there in this dimension, like what do you guys think? I think it's possible that this is like maybe the Ten Tails like Shibai had, What do you guys think about that? Because we know Shibai had the 10 tails, right?
Yeah, I mean,
He was going around absorbing planets and regurgitating himself with karma and all that shit. So he had to have the 10 tails to do it.
I kind of think that they're like fruit. They're obviously seedlings, but I think they just kind of spawn like like the little fission beans or something. I think there's like there's certain things that have happened in the canon material to where, like I mentioned earlier, Hagoromo and Hamura's battle, and Kaguya have the god tree all across the planet, but Hagoromo didn't completely in totality get rid of the god tree until like decades later. He even tasked Indra and Ashura with trying to resolve issues that the remnants of the god tree was causing for certain villagers or whatever. So I think it's possible, you know, in the anime, Victor created like a pseudo god tree in the Deepa arc. I think it's possible, like maybe some fission mechanic happened, or maybe the juvenile ten tails like spawned from some remnant of the god tree that Kaguya created, or something akin to that. If we're operating on the premise that Kinomaki was correct, because I don't remember the specific lore surrounding the juvenile ten tails, but yeah, so that would kind of be like my kind of take on that. But
it would depend, because like he said, it's so different with the anime and then with the manga, and then even with Boruto's description of what actually happened when Kaguya and Ishiki came back then. But it still points, no matter how you look at it in the story, it kind of still points to the fact that ten tails may have already been there on Earth, or may have already been present prior to Ishiki showing up, or Kaguya showing up. It's interesting because it's described as a juvenile ten tails, but it's so strong. And then like Keto said, Amado's saying certain things that you can't really ignore when it comes to describing the ten tails. Like, he doesn't know where it came from. And he also says something that just that's real interesting, because it's been there for the whole time that Jigen and Ishiki, whatever, operating on Earth, like whatever thousands plus years that they've been having the ten tails. And we see that Ishiki, or Jigen, quote unquote, takes chakra, and it's not stated, but it looks like that obviously wasn't his first time taking the chakra from the ten tails. Looking at how strong the Shinju, these beings that derive from the ten tails, are. Amado said something particularly different. He was like, this ten tails is different from the one that so that can be like different in it. Is it just because it's a juvenile, different in like a specific way that it was made or created? Like, what makes it so different? And I think it all points to, like, it can be the fact that it was Ishiki's, it was Shibai's ten tails from back then, because it's like these are very strong, like Shinju's. Like, Jura is strong, and they're kind of showing, like, they're kind of alluding like he's possibly the strongest person to like maybe surpassing even Ishiki, just like really, really strong. So it can just be the fact that this ten tails was so different, however it came up, whatever history it went through back then throughout the past, which alludes to its strength in that regard. But it makes sense. It would make sense for it to be the ten tails that Shibai did, because we know Amado said Shibai went karmic resurrection like multiple times. And in order to do karma, you have to feed yourself or die. But most likely in Shibai's case, feed yourself to the ten tails, have your vessel be prepared, resurrect through the vessel, and eat the fruit that the ten tails produces. And he did that hundreds, thousands, like billions of times. So maybe he just had the same ten tails and he just kept doing it, or
So there's just several issues I'm kind of running into. The first one being, if we're trying to ascertain the differences, I think it's just the difference between you and me. Like, we're both humans, but you're a different kind of human. So if we were just the only two humans that some other species saw, and they would say, I'm a different one than you. I think it's kind of that simple. And then it's, as it pertains to Shibai and the necessity of using the ten tails, is that true? We know he possesses omnipotence with no limitations. And what's the description of omnipotence? The will to make anything real. That is omnipotence, period. So I can definitely see him, this entity of all entities, deviating from what's been explained to us given that description and the lack of limitations and the lack of further specificity with the description of omnipotence. And then my third point would be the interesting just because Amado says a thing doesn't make it so. He may not have gotten all the information. He may only be relaying what he knows or what he assumes. So it's interesting. And maybe my fourth point would be if we're trying to like link the power of this Ten Tails and say, well, this Ten Tails is really powerful because look at these Shinju. So certainly there had to be some kind of absorption or some time period in which, you know, he's with Shibai and Shibai was so exponentially powerful, so that would equate to this particular Ten Tails. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, he's powerful, but let's take into consideration our own subjective point of view. He's only powerful in relation to the characters we've seen. Right. We don't really know if this is actually really powerful. We only really know within our own bubble. So those are kind of like the issues I'm having with this particular Ten Tails. But yeah.
Just to add to that, I feel like even the omnipotence, but like even then, I feel like it said that he still underwent multiple karmic resurrections and that he consumed multiple planets. Like if he had the omnipotence, you'd assume all powerful. Why would he need to undergo a karmic resurrection? He can just will himself to be whatever he wants to be or to get whatever level he wants to get. So I think it mostly implies that maybe he didn't have it the entire time, or maybe he got it later on, or maybe like at the end before he ascended. So you have to like factor those things in.
Or we question the source of the information too.
Yeah, you can do both.
Because you look at Momoshiki, like he's talking about omnipotence. He's talking about it as if he was told about it, not that he experienced it. He's like this is what the gods were said to have used. So if Momoshiki doesn't even if Momoshiki's talking about it in that way, how the hell is Amado? Like we're looking at Amado's description of it as if it's like something definitive, but Momoshiki, like he maybe get where I'm going with this.
So I think we should why Amado is even speaking with so much confidence. Maybe Ikimoto wants us to question it in that way, because that's true. Momoshiki, he speaks in a way that like differs from Amado, but he's like, yeah, what he's saying is true, but like not everything is really adding up. And then he alludes to it like, okay, I can relate to that particular information, but he alludes to it in effect, like you said, somebody told it to him or something that he heard of. Maybe like growing up in the Otsutsuki community, it's like a Otsutsuki lore to hear about Shibai. So everybody knows the story about Shibai. So it comes off like that, but when Amado describes it, he describes it as if like, no, this is fact, this is history, this is what happened, how it happened. And
even like
we got that with Ada. Sorry, real quick. We got that with Ada. Where he's giving like these descriptions of her abilities, and like you said, Black, Momoshiki contradicts this, but Amado was just doing his best. He was just working with what he thought was real. Like he arrived at an assumption and then just presented it as if it was definitive. So if he did that, then it's, to me, I'm asking why wouldn't that apply to other situations? It's certainly a possibility, a very strong one, I would say.
But I mean, like if you're using Momoshiki stating that what he said about Ada's ability wasn't true, to use that as the definitive fact that it isn't, you also have to use Momoshiki confirming that what he said about Shibai is true as definitive fact that it is. So if it can't like do one and not do the other. So either Momoshiki is reliable or he isn't, because in the same chapter he says what Amado said about Shibai is true, right? So we're just working off that. We just have to assume that it is. Now, of course, you can theorize and all that stuff, but I'm just working on what's said by Momoshiki. So we're using Momoshiki's statement to debunk certain things, so we can use it to verify other things as well.
I'm not necessarily using Momoshiki's statements to debunk. I'm more so
casting doubt on what Amado said. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. I'm more so saying like, in regards to like Momoshiki, when he speaks about like Shibai, right, or rather when he speaks about like omnipotence or certain concepts, right, like he's doing it in a way that gets you to like the understanding that he didn't experience this firsthand. This is like secondhand knowledge. So I'm like, if he's not experiencing this stuff firsthand, how the hell is Amado? It's likely that he just learned it from Ishiki, and Ishiki knows it in a similar vein than that Momoshiki, like Black said. It might be some like bedtime story that they're told or whatever the fuck. But like when it comes to Amado, I'm like,
but what exactly are you referring to?
And when he says it is said to have been, it's said that it the gods
Use
I
that.
forgot
Oh,
the specific.
but the omnipotence thing, Amado never spoke on omnipotence. That was just Momoshiki.
No. My point is when I take a look at Amado, I have a definitive instance where he makes definitive claims about a thing, Ada's abilities, based upon his assumption, and that
Mhm.
speaks to his character. Like he is the kind of guy that will make definitive statements based upon something he's assuming, right? So if that's the case, he did that there with the stakes and the context so high, then I'm looking at all these other instances with shade. Now I take a look at Momoshiki and we can talk about like him manipulating Boruto, whatever the case may be, but he manipulates Boruto in a very specific way. One of my major complaints was that he wasn't as proactive as I wanted him to be. So yeah, I can call into question him being a reliable narrator, but I don't really have an instance where Momoshiki says something is definitive based upon an assumption, and then it gets contradicted.
Boruto losing everything.
Oh, well,
But
What do you mean?
well, yeah,
wanted.
what he saw didn't happen. I mean,
Yeah, no. So sorry.
didn't play out like he thought it would, pretty much.
Yeah, so I think this is one of the problems that Momo had. If you take a look at the description for prescience, maybe not the description, but when Koji's like, hey, if you know shit, you're going to start doing things in a certain way that's going to cause time to deviate from like what you saw, right? So I think that kind of mechanic is something that Momoshiki maybe didn't take into consideration. Sorry,
Momoshiki didn't.
Sorry,
I was asking like Koji knew that mechanic, but Momoshiki didn't, as the Otsutsuki.
I mean, there is two different abilities, but it's likely the case. We know the mechanic exists. We know if you know future knowledge and you start taking steps that deviates from what you would have done based upon the knowledge you know, then time will shift and change. And then we do know that he saw a certain thing, and then he literally said, like, this gets back to him not being proactive in the way that I wanted him to. It seemed like he was just sitting back and just doing shit. Doing nothing because he already thought the future was a foregone conclusion. But the fact that he was doing nothing could have been the thing that causes time to deviate. If he didn't know about that future, the future of him despairing, I would imagine that he would have taken steps in a more proactive way, which would have resulted in maybe Boruto actually losing everything.
I think that falls on.
I think it's the opposite. To be honest,
I think it's his fault because even if he were to say like he sat back and he was just waiting because he knew everything was definitive, egging Boruto on, like pick a side, because I know you said you wanted him to be more proactive, but if everything was like set in stone and with the whole idea like, okay, deviating from this or understanding how the future plays out will ultimately change it, like he's telling Boruto these things, like he's giving Boruto a warning. It's not like things happen and Boruto was shocked, he was surprised, but in the back of Boruto's mind, leading up to the events of omnipotence, he had the prophecy, those blue eyes will take everything from you. Momoshiki has been predicting something crazy to happen to him. He even questioned after he died, is this the bad thing that you said was going to happen to me? So Boruto, in the back of his head, regardless, was prepared for something bad, regardless of not knowing. So that could have been like Momoshiki's fault right there, and ultimately like changed the future that he quote unquote saw.
I feel like Momoshiki, like it's the opposite. Momoshiki did it too much. I don't think he wasn't proactive. Like Momoshiki was doing crazy shit the entire time, like intervening in Boruto's life, stabbing Sasuke's eye, like trying to abduct Kawaki, defeated like the fight versus Code, and like, trying to kill Naruto, and like he was legit trying to ensure that Boruto lost everything. So I think it's the opposite. Maybe he did too much. You know, it aligns with what Koji said. Like if you know the future, and like let's say you do something to deviate from the future, it can affect the future you saw. So maybe Momoshiki did something he wasn't supposed to do, and that deviated from the future that he saw. You know.
Well, wait. Either way, it gets me to my point. To where, like, if we're saying like, we're bringing up an example of, when I say give me an example where Momoshiki makes an assumption that's later proven to be incorrect, like he makes a definitive statement based upon an assumption that he has that's proven to not be definitive. And then you brought up the you invoke this example with you'll lose everything, then what you just said, it gets me to where I want to go anyways, to where he based upon his future projections, he made moves in the present that fucked up his future projection. So then when it happened, so that wouldn't be like a thing that you can use to say he made a definitive statement based upon an assumption that he made.
I mean, it kind of is. Like, it doesn't matter, like, the steps he took that affected it. It's just the fact that it didn't happen, because even though he took those steps, he still thought, even up to chapter 79, when after omnipotence happened, even after all the shit he did, he still told Boruto that was going to happen tomorrow. So, like, he still made an assumption that was wrong because it didn't happen. And even, like, you go back to he's like telling Naruto, like, you won't be able to pass on your power. Like, there's Himawari with the Nine Tails. Again, wrong. You know?
No,
So,
sorry. My point was, sorry, just the Himawari thing we can address. Sorry, can you restate what you just said about the Himawari thing? Threw me off a little bit. What you just said, the first one.
what did I say? Oh yeah. So the point is that even though he took this, of course, we're assuming here, you know, I'm assuming that the steps he took, he made certain changes that led to that. You know, we're assuming that. If that's the case, even if that's the case, he's the assumption that he made that the future that he saw was going to happen was still an assumption, and it did not happen, even up to chapter 79, after he made those steps, right?
I got you.
It still happened.
Right there. Let's stick with that. I don't think he made an assumption. I think he saw what he saw, and what he saw was from his perspective something that was definitive. I would imagine this would be based upon history. I doubt this would be the first time he used it, and then he would just rely upon what he saw. But that's my side. It could have been the very first time. I highly doubt it. But my point is, he saw into the future, and he saw what would happen, and then he made a statement based upon the definitive thing that he saw. I think his issue was he looked at it at a certain point in time and didn't look at it again. I don't have any evidence to say like he looked at this multiple times.
But he's doing it with incorrect information, though.
No, but the information isn't incorrect.
No, what I mean by this is that.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is that there's no the future. There's no the future. Only possible futures. So from a mechanic perspective, he's making an assumption that there is the future and there's only one future when there isn't. Right? So that's an assumption, and that's based on him not knowing how the mechanic of the universe works. So if you're going back to Amado, he's doing the same thing. Amado made an assumption that Ada's ability was the charm ability, because when he implanted Shibai cells, that's the ability she manifested. There was no way for him to know that she had a secret ability called omnipotence. It's not that he's just going around willy-nilly making illogical assumptions. No, it was a logical assumption based on him giving her the cells and her manifesting that ability. The same way David manifested a certain ability. The same way Code manifested. He's making a logical assumption. The same way Momoshiki made a logical assumption that the one future he saw was just the future. And it was wrong, because there's no the future. There are multiple possible futures, and he did not know that. It's the same situation.
So how do I explain this? Let's take a look at science, right? We have like these laws that we believe govern our universe. And we speak about them in a definitive sense, but a lot of these ideas are just theoretical. Right. But we speak about them like a definitive sense. So it could be the case that the universe actually doesn't operate in the way that we think that it does. But from our perspective, we speak about it in a definitive way. What I'm trying to ascertain is the individual, the person. I don't think
But that's theoretical science, though, right?
Hold on, real quick. What I'm trying to say is, what Momoshiki, regardless of how the universe actually works, he clearly doesn't know this. And I'm not going to assume that he knows about, like, if I do things that deep, like I have future knowledge and I take steps in the present, it'll change the future possibilities, right? I'm not going to make the assumption that he knows that just because he's an Otsutsuki and Koji isn't. I'll start there, and then move forward from that building block. And then beyond that point, I think if you take a look at Momoshiki, he sees the future. This is the reason why I brought this up. I don't think this is the first time he did this. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense that he is relying so heavily and so definitive on what he saw. So the future that he sees, regardless of if it's like how the universe actually works, right? He doesn't know about any like multiple different possibilities, right? He just knows about the future. The future. There's no indication that he would know about possibilities. So from his perspective, he knows about the future. So when he says you will despair, you will lose everything, that's what he saw. So he's making a statement based upon what is definitive that he actually saw. And I think that he made that statement because that's his lived experience. He saw something in the future in the sorry, this is getting convoluted. A past version of Momoshiki must have seen a future event that happened, and then it actually happened. So then that informed his understanding of this ability in the world, and so that when he says it to Boruto, that's based upon that past experience. I don't think he just like made something up. Now, regardless of if that's actually the mechanical function of the universe, that's not really my point. It speaks to the person. I want to know your intent. He's not making an assumption from his own subjective point of view. He's making a definitive statement because from his point of view, it's definitive. For Amado, this is like
you said
different.
His perspective, though.
Yeah.
So how can it be his perspective and also not be his subjective perspective at the same time?
Wait, what do you?
What?
What do you?
No, because initially when you were explaining it before, you said from his perspective, that's how the mechanics of the universe works. But then just now you said it's not his subjective perspective; it's his objective perspective or something like that. It's objective reality.
I did not say that. No. So I think I get what you.
Yeah, continue.
You kind of misheard me. What I said was, regardless of the objective mechanics of the universe, from his subjective point of view, what he was saying was definitive, based upon definitive information. And I suspect that's based upon him having used this ability in the past, which informed his take in the present when he made those statements about Boruto losing everything. That's what
it's still a misinformed take, right? Though it's still misinformed, though.
Yes. Objectively, yes, it is misinformed. But what I'm trying to ascertain are his intent, the people. I don't care what the like objective reality is. I care, is he the type of person to make take assumptions and speak about them from a definitive perspective.
So what do you think Amado's intent was?
I think Amado's statement was based upon, I think his definitive statement was based upon his assumption, and I think he knew it. Whereas what's that boy? Momoshiki, I think his statement was a definitive statement based upon what he thought was definitive. I think that's the difference.
So hold on. So with Amado, I think the issue here that I'm having is you're willing to give Momoshiki a lot of grace, but not Amado. And the reason why I think it is a bit weird because we're working on, like you said, like, you know, the things that they know. Like Amado, like you're assuming that, you know, let's say, you know, Momoshiki just didn't know, right? And that's fine. He didn't know the objective truth. I can use the same statement logic for Amado. He didn't know the objective truth that the ability was manifested by omnipotence. But from his subjective standpoint, in a scientific field where he has been working, and you brought up that maybe Momoshiki saw the future in the past, and that informed his decision to believe that the future he saw was the future and not just a possible future. But I don't understand why you wouldn't afford that same grace to Amado in the fact that he implanted cells in other cyborgs, Damon, Code, and he saw that they gained the ability of Shibai. You're assuming that he's working with the knowledge of Ishiki, because unless you want to go into like other theories and stuff, assuming that Ishiki is the one who told him that, you know, these abilities belong to Shibai, and you're assuming that Ishiki gave him the cells, right? Let's assume that he's working based on the fact that he has implanted these cells into other cyborgs and they manifested ability. So that ability would then be from the person he transplanted the cell from. So when he transplants more cells into someone else and they gain an ability to whatever charm ability, it's a logical assumption from his perspective, from his lived experience, to assume that this is an ability from Shibai. He's not making a willy-nilly assumption because he just loves making assumptions. No, he's operating from a scientific viewpoint that I did this multiple times and these abilities came from this person. So when I do this another time with the same cells and this person manifests an ability, that ability should come from the person that the cells came from, right? So it's the same. I'm just saying, like, it's the same logic with Momoshiki. They're just operating with the information that they had at that point in time.
I think it's different though, because when you take Momoshiki, and I'm trying to, because I get exactly where you're coming from, but I'm trying to explain like my perspective. I think there's a distinction between the way these two are gathering information, that and it's in that distinction that I'm trying to like operate in. So if I take a look at like Momoshiki, he has like this dojutsu ability. It allows him to like see the future, right? So given that, in comparison to Amado, I think he's being told things from like third-party sources, whereas like Momoshiki's getting it like directly from like himself, or like this ability. Like it's not him being told something and him interpreting like what he's being told by like somebody else, which also is kind of like problematic, because then you have to question that person as well. This in particular, I think, if I take a look at Amado and he arrives at the conclusion that her charm ability is some kind of Shinjutsu ability, if we're operating on the assumption that this information comes from Ishiki, number one, is that true? Not
just that.
Okay, well, okay.
From the process as well, the cells.
Okay. So just the Ishiki part though, that I have an issue with. Number one, I don't know if he got that from Ishiki. And then number two, let's say like the process that we're talking about. And then number two for Ishiki, I'm not even sure that even if he did get it from Ishiki, it's accurate information to begin with, because it turned out not to be. So then I have to question, well, why didn't Ishiki know why didn't Ishiki know that the charm ability wasn't omnipotence? So that's like really weird for Ishiki and him getting knowledge from Ishiki. So I kind of X out Ishiki. So then it's like, okay, well, like you mentioned, the process. So he must have arrived at this conclusion through his own observation of what's occurring, right? So he implants the cells from Shibai, and then she manifests an ability. He knows Shibai has Shinjutsu ability, so he puts one and one together and says, okay, well, this particular ability must be a Shinjutsu, right? When in actuality it was, but it manifested from something completely different that he didn't know about. And that's really my issue. Is it's in how they get the information, whereas where Momoshiki gets it directly from like the future based upon his ability, and then he just interprets what he saw. You have Amado, he doesn't get it from like someone who you think wouldn't be knowledgeable, because it wouldn't make sense for what I just said, that being Ishiki. He gets it from his own observations, right? And I place more value on the way Momoshiki got his information and interpreted versus the way that Amado got the information. So that's why I'm not having them like being equivalent, because one dude had like an actual ability that allowed him to see a future, that and the other dude just like did some shit and arrived at like conclusions based upon his observations. So I place more value on the ability itself than just some guy's conclusions.
I actually think the opposite, because I think when you apply practicality to something, like if you're doing, like, I think even in like science, if I came up to you and I said, okay, this guy had an idea and it's based on something that he did, like from a practical standpoint, or from this guy who said that. Are you gonna bring up
the method in which they arrived at the conclusions, that Amado's methods were more scientific, more rigorous potentially than Momoshiki, so his would be more valid?
But it goes a bit further. If I were to say, like, like he worked towards that conclusion, right, with actual physical evidence, and he can show me his experiments and say, okay, this is why I came to this conclusion, and me, of course, being knowledgeable on the subject, I would agree. And as opposed to, like, if this guy came up to me and said, oh, I saw the future, so this is true. And let's say these guys had two opposing opinions and you had to believe one. Which one would you believe? Of course, you believe the guy that can, of course, support the idea, not the guy who said that he saw it in the future. But we're looking at it from the standpoint of a fictional universe where seeing it from the future is, of course, a possibility and it makes sense. And the issue that I have with the Momoshiki situation is that if the future was the future, then I would say, okay, cool, I can just say, yeah, I believe everything he says. But if the future is not the future, it's just one of unlimited billions of futures, and he saw one possible future, I can't rely on a possible future as opposed to someone saying, I came to this conclusion with evidence, right? So if Amado is working and he says, put 2 and 2 together, I transplant cells into someone else and they gain something, and then, he uses that same logic, it's not theoretical at this point. It has been proven to be true, right? And then he does it again, and this person gets
proven. Sorry, it hasn't been.
What I mean proven is that transplanting the cells from Shibai endows the person that received the cells with one of his abilities, right? That's proven to be true, right? So he saw that happen multiple times.
That's not proven.
Why is that?
Koji contradicts that. Some people got the cells, but it never manifested. It's not a guarantee.
No, but we're talking about people who got abilities.
I'm just saying what you just said. But I get your point. We can move on.
Yeah. So the point is that the people who got the abilities, you'd assume that these are, if Ada just had an ability, then it's her ability. But if she got the cells, then got the ability, then it came from Shibai. So it's like that thing I'm looking at. It's like if I feel like Momoshiki is operating from a place of ignorance, right, where he doesn't know the truth, but he's acting as if he does, and that is by definition ignorance, right? So Amado is also acting from a place of ignorance, but he has also validated his claim, right? He has validated why he believes this to be true, and he can show scientific proof for it. Momoshiki can't, right? So it's like, that's why I feel like Amado coming to the conclusion that this ability came from Shibai, which, by the way, technically is true. Okay, technically it's true because the ability did come from Shibai. Shibai's ability specifically, right? So it's not, he was just like 50% wrong. He wasn't 100% wrong, right? So it's like, I just feel like it makes way more sense to trust in what Amado is saying. And I think we got lost in the sauce, because I think the original point was just to prove that Amado isn't really just going around willy-nilly making assumption, right? He literally came from a basis and a standpoint, which is why he says this. So that's why I said, like, when you brought up Momoshiki saying that, he kind of shit on Amado, saying, that Ada's ability was like a Shinjutsu and it came from Shibai, but it was omnipotence. Momoshiki I think Momoshiki came to that conclusion because he saw the future where Ada used omnipotence. I guess I think that makes sense. Maybe I'm wrong and you guys disagree, but I think that's how he knew that her actual ability was omnipotence, because he saw it happen, right?
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Absent of changes one would make based upon the future knowledge that they have, is the future not definitive?
Repeat that question.
Yeah. So basically, there's only ever going to be multiple possible futures, because when we had this multiverse conversation, I said these realities objectively exist. Everyone, and I think you included, Kiddo, were telling me that they were possibilities, that they weren't physical or tangible. They only exist once you arrive at them based upon the actions that you take.
Correct.
So, okay, so when Momoshiki looks into the future and he doesn't take any actions that deviate from what he would have done, that is indeed the definitive future.
But
it's not. There aren't the whole multiple possibility things only factor in once people with future knowledge start taking steps that deviate from their destined or course or predestined course. Correct?
Yeah, but the problem here is that it hasn't happened yet. So
but it is definitive to happen if you don't like whatever future Boruto arrives at. If he has no future knowledge, he's going to do what he always did, and that future always happens. Correct?
If he has
outside of anybody, like some external influence or some third party, we're just talking about like Boruto's own actions. If he has no future knowledge, he doesn't. Yeah.
if
There's only
Boruto
one
doesn't
definitive future.
interact, no one doesn't know. Yeah, okay, cool.
He's
Yeah,
always
but
destined.
that doesn't apply to Momoshiki because he saw the future. So
But the thing is trying to ascertain, did he do things in the present that he would not have normally done?
but
that
he doesn't know that though.
Well, I'm not saying, I'm saying from our perspective, because we're making like statements like, oh, there are multiple. So like your argument is like it kind of hinges on the fact that there are definitively multiple futures that exist. And I'm saying,
Not-
given the context and the scenario that we have with Momoshiki during that time, right? I don't know if he made any like substantive changes that he would have deviated from normally that would have gotten him to like a different possibility.
But we know we
outside
that's
of
the
what
thing,
actually hit. Yeah.
you go back
Outside what
to
happened. Yeah.
what Koji said. Simply knowing the future is changing the future. So if we're going back to Momoshiki.
Wait,
we're arguing-
no, wait. He also says something after that.
What's
He
that?
elaborates on what he means by that. It's the actions that you take based upon the knowledge. It's not just that you know it. You have to actually do things that deviate from what you would have normally done that makes time shift and wane.
No, but the thing is that that's the thing. You never know, right? Because that's the thing. Like if you know the future, you never know what you did in the let's say hypothetically like the original timeline to get to the original future. You don't know like what you did from what you didn't do. Like you simply knowing about the future occupies space and time in your mind that would have otherwise been taken up by something else. You knowing about the future, knowing that something happened, might have you been worried about like something you saw in the future 20 minutes from now when you should have been doing something else. Like that's what like the cause and effect. That's what the butterfly effect. That's what he's talking about.
But I get that. But what I'm saying is the fact that they arrived at these conclusions means that they were always supposed to arrive at these conclusions. Even changes in the timeline were always meant to happen. So there's like there's one definitive thing.
But we know that. What do you mean by that? What do you mean like it was
so in the anime,
whatever happened
in the anime, the time slip arc, we see the Thunder Train episode 1. Boruto is on it, but he didn't go back in time yet. But we know that the Thunder Train exists because Denki's father overheard Boruto talking about it with Naruto. That's a thing we know. So episode 1 in the anime, Boruto had already gone back in the past. He was always meant to do that, even before he was born. It's all
not
predetermined.
necessarily.
Okay,
not necessarily.
It
could be that he came. Denki's father got the idea to create the train another way. Like there are multiple possibilities. It doesn't have to be a circular loop where Boruto always goes back in time to do this. That's not true.
So the Boruto we're following post time slip arc is a different variant of Boruto than the one we were following originally pre time slip arc.
I wouldn't say a different variant.
Timeline?
No, I think he just changed the past, which affected the current timeline.
And he was always meant to do that because he did it.
That's not how the time travel works. Like if you go back to the future, it's the same thing.
What's the different concept?
Back to the future, like even Back to the Future, the timeline happened a certain way already, and he went back, changed the past, which then changed the future. So the future was different in the current timeline.
But that's
so
the
like
thing that
as
he was always
a
meant
closed
to do.
loop. No, like as I explained, like there are different types of time travel. So you have time travel that like create different alternate universe. You have time travels that the closed loop theory where that doesn't happen. You simply going back in time literally changes the future. That's what it is. Not that you are always meant to do that. That's not always true. It just depends on what method of time travel you're using.
Exactly, that last part. It just depends on the mechanic of it. So
yeah,
look. My point is with Momoshiki, I think his ability. He doesn't like know the how. He just he doesn't know the build up. He just knows like the conclusion. I think that's how it was explained, right?
That's one thing.
I don't think he.
Like, what is he actually seeing when he's looking into the future? That also plays.
I don't think that does he see like every minute of every day?
I know. Like, I think his like future sight deviates greatly from Koji's. I think Koji's is superior because there's no like
he has prescience. He doesn't have.
Yeah,
no. It's a different variant of future sight. So he looks into the future. So this is why I brought up like his past history. Like I'm trying to ascertain the intent of these people. Like, hey, can I look at the statements made by Momoshiki and ask myself, is there like from his perspective, is he saying things definitively based upon assumption? And then I'll say like, no, he's saying things definitively based upon what he believes is definitive. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. He had to have used his future sight ability in the past to even have faith that what he saw would even happen. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. He'd just be like retarded. I mean, I just have to concede that the dude's dumb.
The same thing with Amado though. he thought what he was saying was definitive based on his experiments. So it's like they both believed what they were doing was true based on what they experienced in the past, lived experience.
Yes, but again, I think we're kind of looping now. This gets back to the method in which they gathered the information. I put more stock in the objectivity of the ability itself to show you what is versus the subjective conclusions that a person would arrive at based upon what they're seeing, because he was clearly wrong, right? So that's I don't think the future sight ability that Momoshiki has with his Byakugan has bias or has some kind of intent. It just is. So, but it's in the human bias, in the human blah blah blah, that Amado's conclusions based upon his assumptions turned out to be wrong, and it's that human element that I value less so than the unbiased ability of the Byakugan's future sight from Momoshiki itself, and that's why I have this differentiation between the two situations.
So we already apply that to the Shibai stuff though, because let's assume, right? So I don't think like we have any like substantial like data to say like Amado goes around making multiple assumptions based on nothing, right? So like let's say assuming in this instance that he made an assumption, even though like he backed it up with science, but it turned out not to be true because we're talking about like some omnipotent gods and all that stuff. Abilities are very technical. And then we have Momoshiki and the future stuff. He saw it, so he believed that was true as well based on what the ability showed him. If we have those instances, right, even though they're not equal, based on your opinion, what exactly from the Shibai situation specifically, where Amado said that he did what he did, then Momoshiki verified what Amado said by saying that what he said about Shibai is true. Like, do you still cast doubt on Momoshiki verifying Shibai's story that Amado said?
I would need to go back and see specifically what Amado said and see what specifically Momoshiki confirmed. I don't remember. What chapter was that? You can pull it up.
75.
You guys know? 75? Do you have it up? That was a quick answer. You already have it up?
I use that chapter a lot. Domain of the gods.
Do you have a website I can use? They shut mine down.
Yeah, I can send it in the chat with me.
I appreciate you.
Send it. Private chat.
Give me a second. Oh, okay, let me close this. And what chapter was this again? 75?
Yeah.
Okay. Bear with me. Bro, this site is sketch as fuck, bro. The fucking pop-ups are legendary, bro. What the fuck?
Wait, you get pop-ups?
Yeah,
I'm not using zero. Really?
I have a browser.
Yeah, it gets pop-ups a lot.
I have a browser that negs that shit. I thought I was on it. Hold on.
Oh, okay. I have an ad block, so yeah, see that shit.
Let's turn on the VPN proxy.
Okay. This is 75.
My guy Damon.
Oh, glad boy. Okay. Where's Momoshiki's confirmation part?
Towards
the ass end?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold up.
Says sorry, but the Shibai part is true.
I was wondering why your petty thoughts were okay. Hey, what's the new effect? Apparently, a real
next page.
Kawaki catching. Sorry, but okay. Hold on. I think I found it. All right. Is this the mind transfer jutsu? Okay. Never mind.
Delta's gonna be the end game villain.
About what Amado just said, there's something off about it. You distrust him too? Question mark. Just like Shikamaru? Question mark. Then again, that whole part about gods and Shibai, it was sounding real shady to me. Sorry, but the Shibai part is true. He was an Otsutsuki who, as Amado correctly guessed, is no longer in this dimension. So that's another instance where he kind of doesn't seem to be having definitive statements, but he's guessing, but that's fine. What? Question mark? For real? Question mark? The same with Shinjutsu. I too have observed this plane a long time, and I have an intimate understanding of all extent Shinjutsu. Then you're saying he's lying about his daughter? Question mark. Who knows? I have no knowledge of that. It is Ada's ability that is bothering me. Huh? As Amado asserted that Ada's abilities are Shinjutsu, and her Shinrigan is certainly so. However, that love charm power cannot be. I'm gonna skip a little bit. Well, I'll just read it out. Sorry.
I don't think it says anything else about Shibai, but yeah.
As I just said, now I know all Shinjutsu, but I have blah blah her ability. In short, it is possible that Amado is lying. Blah blah blah. I'm trying to find the part you're talking about.
What do you mean?
Like what part are you talking about? Because like there's a distinction.
You already read it.
You said sorry.
There's a distinction.
Sorry,
There's a distinction between like the things he's saying about Shibai and the things he's saying about Ada. I'm not talking about the Shibai lore necessarily. I'm talking about like his conclusions based upon what he's observed.
No, we're talking about but we had a miscommunication because I was talking about the Shibai lore.
Well, I thought you were talking about the Shibai lore because it's linked to Ada's abilities.
Nah, we're just talking
hold
about.
on. Wait a second. What I'm saying is Ada. I'm talking about Amado made a definitive statement about what Ada's ability was.
No, that we got sidetracked because the original point we were making is that Amado said that Shibai resurrected over and over again. So
and then we definitely got sidetracked, but we are on a track. Sidetrack or main track.
No, but what I'm saying is that we already addressed all of that. But what I'm saying is that getting back to the original point, which is that Shibai Amado's knowledge on Shibai, his backstory, is true because Momoshiki validated it, right?
Oh no, I don't care about that. Sorry. We must be on two different pages.
Well, I thought it was about the whole omnipotence of
but because remember this started because I was saying that the 10 tails belong to Shibai. So and I was saying that Amado said that Shibai resurrected multiple times over and over again after consuming multiple planets. So he must have used the 10 tails to do this. So that's where they started. And I think he went on to say that, well, Amado, he has made a lot of assumptions that weren't true. And that's how we got to the Ada point. So the original point was the 10 tails and the consuming multiple planets thing that Amado said.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I did bring up the Ada thing because I'm trying to ascertain who he is, the kind of guy he is. So is he the kind of guy that looks at a situation and then makes defensive statements based upon his assumptions? That's the whole point of the Ada part.
Yeah, but we got over that. I don't think it's really relevant. So that's I'm trying to get back to the point because the point I'm trying to make is that Momoshiki, it doesn't matter. It's not really because I'm saying that it's not just him saying something. We have Momoshiki saying that what he said is true. So that's what I'm saying. Like, getting back to the point, Momoshiki also agrees with what he's saying. This isn't Amado making up stuff.
He's not agreeing though. He's not agreeing about the part I'm talking about. He's literally saying he doesn't agree with the Ada charm ability.
No, but you're still on the side point. What I'm saying is getting back to the main point. The main point, what I'm trying to get here, is that Amado said that Shibai underwent multiple karmic resurrections and devoured many chakra fruits over several millennia. So I'm saying that he used the 10,000 in Jigen's dimension to do this. So that's how we got to this point. So the entire thing about omnipotence is irrelevant.
No, it's not.
It's just
Like we got to the side point for a reason. Like I wouldn't have invoked this just for the shits and giggles. Like this,
yeah,
there was
but
a point to going to the side point that we
yeah,
have not yet concluded or addressed to get
I
back to the
think
main point.
I think we concluded. The point is that you believe that one thing is weighed differently. I disagree. So we don't need to go into circles on that. I think when it comes to the point of like
Based on both
casting doubt,
their statements.
casting doubt on what Amado said. I'm trying to get to this point where you don't need to bring up his history of him like making assumptions, because this isn't just him making an assumption. I'm specifically talking about this point about Shibai, which Momoshiki also agrees with. Do you have any issues with what he says about Shibai?
So there are two things being spoken here. He's talking about Ada and her charm ability being omnipotence. That's what I was talking about, and I get it. Just let me finish. And there's what you're talking about, where he's talking about the lore of Shibai, correct? Just yes or no?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So the lore seems to be him speaking on things that he was told from a third party, and we assume that's Ishiki, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Versus his take about Ada and her ability is not based upon a third party. It's based upon his own first party observations, correct? I think he dropped out. I'll wait for him to come back.
Keto did drop out. Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, you were cooking with him. I mean, I guess because you wanted to make the point for his argument, so it would kind of be.
Yeah, I'm not like I like the part about Amado's lore about Shibai. I don't care about that because that comes from. I mean, I can make the argument like he's just trusting Ishiki's words. So he's the type of guy who would just take the word of a third party source without having some kind of means of verification. But that's not even like what I was arguing. What I'm saying is he looked at his own first person perspective, what occurred with Ada, and he arrived at a conclusion, and he made a definitive statement based upon that, and he turned out to be incorrect. So that speaks to what he could be doing as it pertains to other forms of information, was all I was really saying about that.
No, I see the connection there. I definitely see the connection that you're making, because he I mean, he says things that lets you, like, because you would initially believe, like you said, that he got this information from Ishiki, but it's certain things that he says that makes you question from Ishiki's perspective or standpoint, why would he think or say that? And it ties to what Momoshiki says. So like that one point that was mentioned, if he's saying all of these things and this information does in fact come from Ishiki, and he says, okay, well, the love ability that Ada has is a Shinjutsu, that would mean, if we're assuming that he's not going based off of the fact that this ability popped up post his experimentations and research that he did on Ada, but assuming that he's going based off of the knowledge from Ishiki, it wouldn't make sense for him to say, oh, this love ability is an omnipotence ability, for Momoshiki to turn around, think about it, and say, no, that's actually the omnipotence. He mistaken it because there's no Shinjutsu known as the love ability. Or we can just allude to the fact that Momoshiki claimed himself, and then we're going to talk about he said, she said, because he claimed himself he knows or has knowledge of all Shinjutsu. So is it just like an Otsutsuki thing to have this type of knowledge? Is it particularly keen to Momoshiki? You know, so, but I see what you're saying ultimately, Mello, the point that you're drawing there, with the steps of how Amado came to the conclusion and his results from what he believed to be true.
I mean, just like his ways of arriving at conclusions, but then also how he disseminates the conclusions he arrives at. It just causes into question other instances. Is all I was really saying. Is yeah, it's like even when Momoshiki's like he guessed accurately about like what happened with like oh boy, like ascending or whatever the case may be. Although to be fair with that, I don't think he made a definitive statement about what happened.
He said it was said to be true. It was said to be.
Yeah, that type of shit. But there's a lot of assumptions
Well, awesome.
baked into this type of thing. But this Amado as a character is just very manipulative. I mean, just his kind of foundation is like he was supposed to be a part of a group, and bro was being deceptive and like tricky. Like even getting into the favor of Konoha Shinobi, he put a fake bomb around bro's neck. Like dude is plagued with like that type of aura to where like he's not trustworthy what he does or what he says.
Wait, hold on. Good news. My mute button is working.
Oh, you mute.
Oh shit! What happened?
Awesome.
It was free game.
You was probably trying to talk the whole time.
No, I just tested and it's good. That's great. But I wanted to just to address that thing with the what I'm saying is that, so I understand the entire thing. We disagree on the how we view Amado and Momoshiki, right? But what I'm saying is that not that you can't use it to impede Amado's character. You can, but I'm asking like what are these like? You don't typically use one example of something to say that this person is this thing. So what are these like? Yeah, multiple examples of Amado making assumptions that weren't true. To say that like that's his character essentially, aside from this one instance where you believe that he made an assumption that wasn't true.
So now you're asking me to invoke my memory of the part one and all of Amado's the totality of when Amado said things, and but to be fair, you are asking for proof, but you're asking for a proof I can't provide at this particular moment because it's quite a bit of content that I would have to sift through. But larger to the point, I do agree with you. The point that you just made, to where you wouldn't take one instance and then like use that to measure the totality of a person. That's why I brought up like the character, his aura in general, him being in an organization but not really, him betraying Ishiki, him using deceptive tactics to get in favor with Konoha, him not bringing up certain key pieces of critical information that Sasuke has to like kind of ascertain himself before it's ever even mentioned. It's just like multiple things that this character has done. And I think we all get the vibe as fans. We've been talking about this for years. The brother is shady as fuck. Now, Momoshiki, I don't get the same level of shade. I just don't. Like he seems very he seems arrogantly forthright almost. Like, bitch, I know what I know. I'm the shit. I'm him. And what I say is what it is. I don't even need to lie to you, motherfucker, because you're going to get packed anyways. It seems to be a very different tactic to where Momoshiki has that smug arrogance about him. So there's no necessity, really, I think, from his character to even lie. Because I haven't seen it, unless you can bring up an example of it. Now I'm asking you to invoke all of part one. But right. But in contrast, there are plenty of moments like that I just mentioned about Amado. So I'm looking at these two characters. I'm like, one's shady as fuck in comparison to the other. And then one's arriving at conclusions based upon their observations. And then one's arriving at their conclusions based upon the unbiased abilities of the Byakugan's future sight.
But I think the thing is that I think there's a difference between like being deceptive, intentionally deceptive, and making assumptions based on science. So I think one instance you can impugn his character to say that Amado is not trustworthy in the sense that he's intentionally deceptive to further his goals. But I think this instance is different because he's not being intentionally deceptive, right? This is an instance where he thought what he was doing was correct, right? And also,
it's all of it. It's all of it.
Yeah. It brings back to the point that even if we put that to the side, this specific instance that I'm mentioning, which was the original point, is just that this isn't just Amado like making an assumption or being deceptive, because Momoshiki said that what he said about Shibai is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat that one more time? I was typing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, sure. So on the specific point of the Shibai point, right? I don't think it can be used as an instance of him being deceptive because Momoshiki validated what he was saying. So I'm just speaking specifically on this Shibai point, which is just to get back to what I was saying like about the Telltale stuff. Like, do we agree that at this point in the story, since we have Amado explaining the story and Momoshiki say that what he said about Shibai is true, do we agree that at this point what we know about Shibai is mostly true? What we know, what was told to us.
No. I think it's likely. How do I want to phrase this? Just because Momoshiki verifies what Amado says about Shibai, just because, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this. Just because Momoshiki verifies that what Amado said about Shibai in the specific instance, the lore regarding the character is accurate, doesn't make it actually accurate. I don't think. So we're talking about like what is true. So if I take a look at Momoshiki, this gets back to him like talking about it, the information almost as if it's like a third party thing. In particular, omnipotence in like Shibai Otsutsuki, like it's said to have been like it's linked to this dude, right? Like it seems to me to be like I'm not
he only
entirely.
said that about omnipotence, not Shibai.
Yes, he did say that only about omnipotence. That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, no, that's correct. That's correct.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, you just like, of course, I'm like, I do like theories and say like characters are bullshitting, but I'm just like operating like, based on what's said in the show. Like, do we like just roll with the Shibai backstory until we have evidence to say otherwise?
I mean, it's yes, but when you ask me, is it true? I can't say yes.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, like I don't know if it's true because I like it's coming from two characters that are shady in their own right, but one's way more shady than the other one, and one has like actual instances where like dudes being super manipulative. I don't know what at any given time what his actual angle. I don't even know if Akibi Sanzu is his fucking daughter. I don't even know if that's a thing. That could be some plot to bring back some Otsutsuki or whatever the fuck. I don't know. Like the dude's really weird. And I like in hindsight, maybe we like in the future we can come back and look at this and be like, I might be able to hit you with I told you so if he turns out to be it was me all along, Barry, type of fucking villain, Amado. But right now, like, I have the burden of being in the present, not the future. So I don't know. But what I do know is the dude's super suspect. And he's been suspect with the villains. He's been suspect with the heroes. He's suspect to this day. Bro placed limiters on Kawaki and nobody fucking knew high nor hair except for the dude who could look into multiple realities. So it's like, and then even when he's disseminating information, he's not giving you the whole truth. It's like shit that's missing, critical bits of information. I'm like, he said the thing, but like I'm not entirely sure if it's like accurate. And then I take a look at like what did he say definitively about it? You say he like traveled and did karmic resurrection. Let me see.
He overcame.
Yeah, devoured countless plants and shit. Then evolved into a god.
Repleted it.
And that Otsutsuki as a species evolved through devouring those fruits. By repeatedly undergoing karmic resurrection, Shibai cheated death. Excuse me. Devoured many fruit over several. Damn, I didn't even remember it being that long. Over several millennia, and eventually the cumulative evolution led to godhood. And then what does Momo say about this take? He says,
"Sorry, but the Shibai part is true. He was an Otsutsuki who, as Amado correctly guessed, he did say correctly guessed, is no longer in this dimension." And
sorry, but the Shibai part is true. He was an Otsutsuki who, as Amado correctly guessed, is no longer in this dimension.
Yeah.
The same with this. So hold on, sorry. The same with Shinjutsu. I too have observed this plane for a long time. Blah blah blah. Okay. Sorry, but the Shibai part is true. He was an Otsutsuki who, as Amado correctly guessed, is
no longer in this dimension.
I see an angle I can take here, but I'm not.
I know the angle you're saying, but yeah, don't do it.
I already know what your counter to that angle is gonna fucking be. So I'm not even gonna waste my time taking that one. But yeah, no, it's interesting conversation.
But the thing is, what about the 10 tails though? Because I was speaking about it, I think on stream the other day. So the 10 tails in Code's dimension, Code's dimension, no, Jigen's dimension. It has the rods.
Jura's dimension.
Jura's dimension. True. It has the rods like pinning it down, right? I was looking into it, right? So why is it that when Momoshiki died, his rods like evaporated, but when Ishiki died, his rods didn't?
I think it's the method in which they're produced. I think Momoshiki manifests those rods from like his body, but Ishiki brings them out of a dimension that like they're already like
And he
established.
enlarged them. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I feel like it. That's the thing, though. Someone mentioned that, but even then, the dimension itself is like the things in those dimensions. Like he spawned them, right? It's his time space, right? He created
he?
it. You'd assume since it's
assume?
his, right?
well, not
You'd
I mean, Naruto's in there.
Like
Did you make
Kaguya's
Naruto?
dimension. No, like
Naruto's in Daikokutsu. Did they make Naruto?
no, but the thing is, Ishiki can create like spawn those things. Like you look at the fight versus Barred mode, and he had like one, then he just like he used the eye, then like duplicated into like he just spawned multiple in different sizes in different directions. So I feel like even in like the dimension when Naruto is in there with like Hinata, you're just seeing cubes. I think there's like one panel that has like one one stake in it, but like if you look in the dimension, it's just cubes. You know, like I'm just like I feel like he just creates them and puts them there, man. I don't know. Could be.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. It could just be the differences in their abilities. Like, hey, I can do this and it's similar, but like I can do it different because I have some like genetic mutation that deviates from yours. Or it could just be an oversight. It could be a plot hole.
I think he isn't the one who pinned down that 10,000, man. I don't know.
That's an interesting angle. Who do you think it was? Was it time traveling Boruto? The one that appeared during the 4th Great Ninja War?
It's the GOAT Shibai, bro. Yo, it's so funny because like, I think someone mentioned like, well, Shibai is dead too. So, yeah.
Is Shibai real, bro?
Is he dead though? Like he ascended. It's not the same as dying, you know? I don't know.
Bro, I think Amado is Shibai. Or if anything, he's like something akin to it. I don't, because doesn't Shibai translate to like a play or like something fake?
Yeah.
And we're not thinking that's like it's just a coincidence. They just chose that name.
But it's like I don't know. I feel like Amado can't be anyone important, to be honest. Like he's just like, because like there's too many things that happened, and he's just like, it just works out for him. Like most of the shit that happened, Amado didn't plan that shit, bro. He's like panicking and sweating and shit and begging for mercy. It just happens that he survives. You know, like I don't know, like bro, is that really Shibai? That would be crazy. I don't know about that one. That would be crazy if that's Shibai. I don't know.
I mean, it could be he's trying to resurrect Shibai and whoever this Akibi Sanzu is. Like that's it. But it's interesting because like what Ada saw, right? So
even then, like what did she see? Oh, let me see. Because she's like she didn't even verify everything. Because
I think she like confirmed that what he was saying about his daughter was accurate or something of the sort.
Like there was an AKB.
Yeah.
She says.
Yeah, he's asking. He's like, "How dare you?" But she I think she confirmed it. Yeah.
Yeah, she says it was a quick peek, but you know, Amado's daughter Sanzu AKB did exist. She died when she was 24. At the very least, those events he told us about her were all true.
But I also think if you know about,
at the very least,
I think if you know about the Senringan, you can take steps to anticipate at some point whatever you're doing is going to be like viewed. Because like Koji, he was like, yeah, she's going to. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm getting at, but yeah, like yeah, at some point Ada's going to look back on this. So he's having a conversation with a person that's not even there, but he knows or suspects at some point, or maybe he knows, he can see the future. At some point, she's going to look back. So he's basically effective. Like it's like a telephone call through time.
But even then, like she died, Akebi died like what 12, 15 years ago. And Ada is like what? Ada's 16 at this point.
19.
She's 19.
Yeah.
Like bro, like Amado could have like done anything. Like she can only see until like the point she was born, right? So it's like 19 years in the past.
Yeah. So it's interesting. And I definitely get your perspective as well. I'm just like very hesitant about like a lot of it. But I do I don't disagree with the perspective that taking the information as presented until kind of proven otherwise And I do think the idea that the author is trying to convey some intent through the dialogue that he mentions, but at the same time, like I've read stories where the author would say something, but it's like a deliberate misdirect. It's like a literary tool, like a red herring or something. Like you see like mystery novels all the time and whatnot. So I'm not sure if that's consistent with Ikemoto's writing style, but
yeah, it's hard. Like how do you like differentiate between if it's a misdirect or if it's like a hint? You know, it could be either one.
I guess you're making an assumption and speak about it as if it was definitive.
Yeah, pretty much.
But with that, I think we're gonna close out the podcast. We appreciate you hopping on, bro. That was a wonderful conversation. You gave me a lot to think about.
Yeah,
so
man, for sure. Yeah, man.
As usual, Big Kiddo Maki. Okay. You guys already know. Subscribe to Kiddo. Subscribe to Black Uchiha. I do apologize, Black. I don't have the ability to bring you back up on this dog shit website. But thank you so much for coming.
Y'all should use Discord, bro.
Whoa, pause. Thank you so much for arriving on the Cloud Ninja podcast. You were a wonderful guest. Subscribe to Black Uchiha if you guys haven't already. And Kiddo Maki, I appreciate you popping up as well, buddy.
Yeah, man. All right, man. Have a good one.
You too, man. Peace.